I can't mention it on air because somebody will steal it. And it's been trademarked.
This is the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan.
And I'm Jay Baxtron.
And we are going to be bullshit about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. Today we are propping up our Trapper Keepers on our desks in the back of class so we can read through Nintendo Power issue 16 while Miss Chrysler drones on up front about how important learning to write in cursive is. You can find the issue on archive.org if you want to look at our shit, or look at the shit we're looking at. I'll drop the link in the show notes, as I always do. Please rate and review the podcast. If other listeners are so inclined to leave one, we'll read it here on the pod, and that's fun for everyone. What are we jamming on now? Jay, what are we jamming on now? It looks like, when that first popped up, I thought I was looking at, what the fuck was the name of Savage? What the fuck was Savage Planet? I thought I was looking at a Savage Planet.
No, not at all.
Screenshot.
So, this game is Mother Gunship Forge VR. First of all, wow. Second of all, have you heard of this?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I've heard of VR. I like it.
Dude, so I had never heard of this game. Never heard. Apparently, there's like a 2D version of it out on PC or something. Never heard of it. But
well,
Jesse,
my initial, the most important question here is, Jay, why are you talking about a VR game? That's not on Quest.
Hey, I mean, this is definitely on Quest.
This is on Quest 2?
Yeah, this is on ours.
Who is ours?
The same,
like
Quest 2 that we have, that we both have the same version of.
Okay. Just clarifying. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, man.
No, I have not heard. I've not heard of this.
I'm shocked, first of all, because I thought you would have heard of like everything on the VR about now. But yeah, I was
shooting shit. You know better.
Well, out of the blue, Jesse texted me talking about this game, just raving about it. And once he added those magic little words, it has co-op, better known as Us Against the World mode, I was in. And it's like roguelike game in VR with like truly amazing weapon building choices as you go along, similar to like Hades, but only with guns and in first person. And it is absolutely amazing. You have guns on either hand, and there's different things you can do with them and different modules you use to stack on and connectors, and each one has its own set of statistics you can kind of see behind me in a little screen. And so you can choose to have like one.
It definitely
hand
looks
have a
like a
what
would be the adjective? Amalgamation's too simple, like a hodgepodge. It's like I'm trying to think of a good adjective for it, but yeah, it looks like very, very fucking duct tape and.
But it's done really well done. So like each connector adds in, and you're looking like, what should I add to here? Should I add something that modifies my fire rate, or should I add something that actually is another gun and shoots another set of projectiles in a different direction? And it's, like I said, very similar to Hades, where you have a bunch of enemies come at you in waves in a big room, and then once you clear all those enemies, you have choices of like, which of these things do you want to add in? Do I want to add a mod that, maybe I only have one space on my left hand for this one, or this was, this gives me more health, and it's a blast, and it's true, it's co-op. So when me and Jesse played, like we're like side by side, and we're taking on like even more enemies than you do on your own. It's I just can't say enough about it. I made it to the last boss. Me and Jesse both made it to the last boss. I still haven't beat it yet, but I will keep playing over and over again.
Did you guys play the whole game through together?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But I would continue playing it just because of the weapon choices you have. Like there's one time I decided to put all the mods on one side and just use my left hand as kind of like a shield, and that was crazy because my weapons were probably like 9 feet tall or something like that because of all the modifications and everything. But it was so amazing to watch like the various bombs and grenades and shotgun shells going off at once because of the way I built it, and it's just so fun. And the VR itself is well done, so where dodging, you're moving, like you gotta get out of the way of projectiles. So it's not just like static, and you really feel like you're in it. And it's one of the most addictive VR games I think that I found on the platform. I get tired of wearing the headset after like an hour, and I'm like, I need to take a break. This game, I'm like pushing it, like I gotta keep playing. I want to come back and play some more. It's that type of game to me.
Wordman, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. It's not Oculus native though. It's PC. It has you said PC a 2D PC. They don't have a PC.
Yeah,
VR.
I don't know that much about the background. I just know that there was a 2D version before it came to VR, and I was like, oh, it's on VR. It's great, but highly recommend. Highly recommend.
How long has it been out? I'm just curious because we talked about that. How they removed that compatibility issue with the first Quest.
Yeah.
So visuals are better. So I'm just curious, like how it kind of ranks out, I guess, visually.
It's good. It's not like stellar. I wouldn't think. It's probably not Quest 2, specific from that standpoint. Like I'm not putting it on and like blown away, but just from the pure gameplay,
well, that's kind of
what you
Quest 2 is by expectation lower, visually, I would say, because of, partly I think we talked about, like you said, that backward compatibility thing, but also just it's a mobile platform that just doesn't, the visuals don't tend to be on par with obviously PC VR, but even, whatever, it just usually doesn't look that great comparatively. That was kind of why Red Matter was so mind-blowing, is like how visually impressive it was. But even that, like even that was visually impressive on the spectrum of Quest games, again, like compared to like fucking, anything on an Xbox or something. It pales in comparison visually usually.
Yeah, this game came out in June, so it's pretty new. But I mean, I don't want to misspeak. I mean, it looked good. Don't get me wrong. It's just especially if I'm after the battle and I'm looking at my weapons and like pulling them close and deciding what to do with it, that is really well done and really cool. But outside of that, I'm not taking the time to enjoy the scenery. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it's like battle time, so it's not really that type of game where I think you would even really tell,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the textures on the gun should look. I mean, that's kind of why when it first popped up, I thought you were playing some fucking Microsoft shit that you wouldn't talk about. Is why I was asking like I was.
You're saying because Microsoft has such amazing
turns
quality.
out
I get it.
Turns out Microsoft is also still playing in the Stone Ages, or rather still playing in the Stone Ages, and they don't have a VR thing that you at least have access to.
Oh man.
Or at least you'll talk to me about it. Which if I find out that's the case, Jay, I'm gonna be sad inside. Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, I continue to play ESO. I mean, I had been grinding away at getting perfected daggers in Veteran Cloud Rest, pugging with randos out in Craglorn, progressing the hard mode, like the highest hard mode of this trial with this core team I'm on, and I finally got these freaking daggers, man. Finally got them. So now I have like the full meta build for the highest possible damage in the game. I'm a god walking amongst mere mortals, and I can essentially just be done and just do some questing with the fairies and enjoy life until the next trial comes out.
I was just talking with somebody about ESO since we last recorded. I think when I was in Buffalo or New York.
You were talking to somebody about ESO?
Oh, fuck it. So when I was back in Cleveland, my cousin, I was out to dinner with my uncle and him, and he's like, him and my uncle have kind of gotten a little bit close, I think, and like the past few times I've been home, I've seen him more. But I haven't talked to this kid a ton. He's probably, I don't know, not quite maybe like a half decade younger than me, maybe a little more. So like a little bit of gap, and there's just for whatever reason, we weren't really close growing up. Mm-hmm. And we were out to dinner, and he said something about video games, and it just like it got us going, man. And we like he was like, I was sending the video of me crying about Outer Wilds after the fact. He was like, what was the name of that game? He was just texting me afterwards and trying to get the name of the game. We were talking about Subnautica. We were talking about that. We were talking about Skyrim, and like Skyrim is his favorite game ever. And then he was fucking talking up ESO. I was like, oh, dude, the dude I do the fucking podcast with is fucking nonstop about ESO, bro. And yeah, he was trying to sell me on ESO again and talking about, again, kind of what we talked about for the disparity, and particularly since my experience with it in PS3, how much it's come along, and yada yada yada. So yeah, I just had that coming from another angle too.
Maybe is it fate? Is it God just speaking to you? Like, you need to give this a try. I think that it might be, Josh.
I need to. Why isn't it in VR? I just don't know. Why isn't it? Do they have it on VR? Well, that's a great question. Is it cross-platform?
No, it's not cross-platform. No,
it's only Xbox. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only Xbox. Like, there's you can have a server on PC, on PS4. Yeah, but just,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, because there's zero doubt in my mind that there's a PC VR mod. Even if there's not a native VR, I am absolutely certain someone's modded it. There's just no way there's no fucking way that hasn't happened. So if you could play that way, then I could do a VR.
How would you even? I don't know.
Oh, dude,
I don't know that you'd want to do
everything on PC everything has been modded for VR. There's a way to do it in VR on PC. Yeah, clearly, it's just so customizable that someone is, and any game that popular, the only thing preventing it is enough human beings having the carnal desire to play it in VR. Is the only thing stopping any PC game from being in VR. Is just enough human beings clamoring for it before someone does it. And a game like that, we eclipsed that a long time ago. So I'm absolutely certain it could happen, and it's possible. It's just a matter of having the technology.
Always wishing for the impossible, Josh.
That's not impossible.
Not impossible, but just what is not
2022.
here.
It's 2022. We can go to space. We can go to space casually, Jay. We can get VR. We can get ESO and VR.
Yeah,
okay.
that would be crazy. I don't know if I'd want to do a trial in VR or something. That would be kind of like first person. I will say, now that I'm like, normally when you play trials or hard content in the game, like, you're always playing it in third person, so you can kind of see the environment, and you're zooming out so you can see the environment around you. But
oh, really? You don't play it in first person?
Well, no, you can do first or third. I'm saying when I'm doing hard content, you need to zoom it out so you can see stuff coming at you and behind you and what you're standing in and all that. But when I'm playing, like when I'm doing questing or just kind of out in the world, I'll zoom in the first person, and it's actually far more cool and interesting being in first person. It's just I'll get messed.
Of course.
But like, I don't mind it then because I'm so powerful. I can kill most things out in the world that are just whatever. That would be cool.
You have played
trials.
You have played Skyrim in VR, right? You have Skyrim in VR. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
but outside of those two, the last one is, of course, like everybody else in the world right now, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I'm assuming Call of Duty is just not your jam because you've never mentioned it once.
I've tried it before. I hated it. It was so bad.
Oh man, I've had several Call of Duty games. Even like the first, when we bought our Xbox One, the first time, I bought a console since I was in high school. We bought Call of Duty Ghosts, and I played all the way through that, and tried the PvP. I played the PvP. I was terrible at the PvP. But I love the game. It was a great game. And so I've played Call of Duty games, and, I've always liked them, but I've never been like the huge Call of Duty fanboy kind of into it. I hadn't bought a game since then, so maybe it's been like, I don't know, it's been a good 4 or 5 years since I've played a Call of Duty game, really, outside of Warzone. I take that back. I play Call of Duty Warzone because that's more of like Battle Royale, and it's fun. But I just haven't been heavily into it. But there's just been so much hype, obviously working at Microsoft, being in the industry, like, the usage of this game is just ridiculous, and so I'm like, I that much hype, I dive in and play it, and it's really good. I mean, I'm definitely not great at it. we had a coworker gaming session yesterday, and I was just getting whooped, man, just getting destroyed. I had to it was so bad I had to switch. and play some Halo afterwards and feel better about myself since I'm far better at that game than Call of Duty. Because just people are ridiculously good at Call of Duty, and it's impressive. It's a fun game, but I suck at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that they make a new one every year, don't they? It's like Madden, isn't it?
But it's different. But like they have, it's not like Madden's where everything is like the same. Like they change it up. Like even the versions I've played have been vastly different. Like the story is clearly very different. I can't really speak to how the PvP has changed because I haven't been that much into it. But the stories are always different and unique enough to where I'm like, yeah, I'll play another. That's kind of why I was like, yeah, I'll play another Call of Duty game. Not because I think I'm going to really get into that PvP scene, but more just I want to play through the campaign because I know it's going to be freaking great, you know.
PvP scene.
Dude, I got to have my competition. I got to be able to PvP with something, you know. I got to be able to fight somebody and feel the thrill of victory and hopefully not so much the agony of defeat.
I got a comment on this coming up. Okay.
But yeah, those are the games, man. What are you jamming on?
I think I just downloaded it. We hadn't started it yet at the last recording, but Return to Monkey Island, which is the art behind me. We played all the way through it. Took, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks maybe. Amy wanted to look up a few things because she's lazy. I wouldn't let us do it, so we did it legit all the way through. Definitely not that hard. It's coddles you a little bit. It's kind of a modern game in that regard. A lot of it's like Thimbleweed Park was from the same Ron Gilbert and his team of people that I'm sure he probably worked with on both of them to some degree or another. That was a mobile game, and that it still like they kind of leaned on like I don't know. There were still some quality of life improvements over the old school point and click games, but this one in particular, being on Switch because you didn't even have an actual point and click, you're dealing with a Switch, And yes, it has touchscreen if you're playing on mobile, but when you have it on the TV, you don't have that feature. So they had to kind of some of the stuff like you could kind of just for a point and click game, to me this kind of is just such baby stuff because you just like literally cycle through the POIs on the screen with just moving across. So like the whole, at least a large part of the difficulty of that game is like looking at what is in front of you and being able to parse out the POI in the artwork, and figure out what's you need to interact with to solve the puzzle that you're trying to sort. And like to have that kind of spoon-fed to you, you're somewhat you're like playing Dragon's Lair, like an interactive movie now, So
yeah, like that doesn't sound too exciting there. I mean,
it's still because all those games are kind of there is. There's a puzzle for the next step in a lot of cases, so it's a little more advanced than just a story. But they're all kind of the idea with all of them is just it's a storytelling experience that you're part of, and that's still very well done. It's the same kind of Guybrush Threepwood fucking Monkey Island humor's in there. There's a lot of self-referential stuff, kind of meta. Acknowledging the history of this type of game. There's it's well done for sure. It does that nostalgia thing that we talk about as a fine line well. It does all that shit well. The storytelling's great. The humor's great. The artwork is beautiful. I don't know why anyone was bitching about that. I think it looked great. It was a good experience, but the difficulty was definitely not necessarily there that I think this kind of game that I enjoy in a game like this, maybe more so than a lot of people, which maybe that's why they did it that way. I don't know. But it was good. Took us a few weeks. Got it done. So that was fun. And then I hadn't played a shit ton of stuff. I did like 10 days in fucking on the East Coast for a couple of Bills games. And I had my headset, but I never even took it out of the box. So I hadn't really played much. And then a couple nights ago, I downloaded a couple new things. One off the Rough Talk VR did a podcast or did a review on Puzzling Places, which is a puzzling game, as you might imagine. It's actual puzzles. So it's 3D puzzles, though. So I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this. It has like a ton of different things you can do in it. It's like incredibly, it's kind of very similar to, did you ever end up playing that Cubism game or no?
No.
So you can it kind of at least natively exists in just kind of this empty, serene space. So it's again kind of one of those like very relaxing, you can lay down and do it and just kind of fucking chill out and VR. And this has the pass-through, and this is the first time I've used this. So it's pretty wild, dude. You could, first of all, you can map your whole room. So I did that, which was new and I hadn't done before. So you like literally get up and you're walking around, you're painting the walls, telling it where the walls are. You can do surfaces and objects and things to like build your space. You make your couch, so your couch is now like kind of like the stationary guardian, but anywhere on your couch acts as that now. You can make your desk, so that's like the workspace where you would put things, and then when you go to your house in the main UI, the menu where you pick your stuff, that area that you're in, the couch and the desk you map are now in there. So you're like sitting on a couch in like, I have the crystal fucking whatever that, it's like a crystal area. There's like purple crystals all around. It's like this real big open valley kind of thing. So that stuff's in there now. So yeah, you can build all that out, and it like acknowledges and puts that in your VR space, which is just just that alone, even not taking into account the fact that you can see now everything. Like I'm playing the puzzling game, Amy's making dinner, and I'm like, she's talking to me and I can just look at her and like, interact. So like, the chief reason I'm bringing this up is you talk often about like how it walls you off from the world that you can't wall yourself off from. This completely changes that, And granted, you have that gray pass-through shit, which is the big difference between the Quest Pro and this, is that goes away. It's color in the new one, and that's obviously a big difference. So, it's not, I mean, you can still move around safely. Like, it's definitely not so like shitty looking that it, obstructs your view or what you can see, but it's it's not perfect. That it's got like a little bit of that vibe, that fucking vibratingness to it, but and it's obviously in black and white. But again, plenty good enough to interact with the world. You can reach and grab something. You can certainly look at someone and talk to them. You can see what they're doing. Yada yada yada. So
that is the biggest thing I hate. It's like the kids need something or anything. It's like I gotta take this all, put it down, then
decompress in the world, yeah. And obviously that's you can't do this with every type of game. It's a certain type of like relaxing experience game, but there are plenty like that. Demio, you can say I tried it with Demio. Yeah, I couldn't get it to work really. It was a little fucking wonky for Demio. So I don't know if I just need to troubleshoot that more or I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, I couldn't get it to work too well for Demio. But for the puzzle game, it worked fucking great. And like the puzzle says, yeah, you pick these 3D models basically. Of all different kinds. Like I did this haunted house one, and this like, I don't know, 18th century chapel of some kind was another one I did. And you select it, and then you can pick all these different puzzle piece number options. Do you like 25, 50, 100, 200, 400, I think are the different options. And if you think you're doing like, so if you like say you were going to fucking Target and you're going to get a puzzle to do with the kids, like 400 piece puzzle is like nothing in like a normal, but 400 pieces in this shit is fucking nuts, dude. Like it tells you like your first one, like definitely do 25 or you'll probably just stop playing this game. And it is like once you pick the number and then it just drops these things in a grid in front of you, or like kind of just in the space in front of you, and it's like a little bit overwhelming, especially with really high counts, And you have these reference photos that you can turn off if you want, but there's these reference photos of all different angles that are kind of like in a half circle in front of you for you to reference while you're doing it. And then you're just very like Cubism. You're just like literally grabbing a piece and like trying to interlock them together. Like, okay, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. You can set it over here and like try more, and then like have like a little piece of the puzzle working here, set that aside, and like try another piece, and then eventually join the, like it's it's exactly like a puzzle in a 3D space with 3D models. And it's fucking, the music is again just like an incredibly soothing experience, like a really really fucking fun thing. And like it was funny, like the Rough Talk guys kept talking about it too, but like when you like I don't know, I have no idea what kind of science goes into this, but like the little noise that it makes when you get one to work is like the most fucking satisfying thing. So yeah, like they really crush like the little tiny, I don't know, little fucking whatever category of game experience that fits into. They nailed that perfectly. So yeah, that's really cool. It's like $14.99, I think, and then you know it's got however many puzzles. They got little tiny add-on packs you can download all the time. I guess they even have like a subscription thing. I think like a $4.99 a month, where I guess they're essentially releasing new packs every month. You know, which I'm sure it's not hard. They just take a 3D model and fucking cut it up. So yeah, but a lot of cool shit with that. So that was one I downloaded, and then the other one I downloaded, Among Us, came out on VR.
What?
This
you
last
played
week.
that in VR? Oh my god!
So I downloaded it. It was only $9.99, which is pretty inexpensive. So that was not a tall hill to climb. So I downloaded it, and like I've never played this before ever. So I download it. I do the tutorial, and I'm kind of like, okay, like yeah, you gotta like interact with shit. You gotta like they kind of explain obviously the two different teams you can be on. The fucking the what is it called? The imposters or the crew. They explain how you do the jobs and how you can kind of like feign being part of the crew if you're an imposter to kind of like trick people and stuff. So you do the little tutorial. It's like maybe a 10-minute thing. I do all that. I'm like, okay, like I think I get it, So like I click over the thing and I go into a game, and I almost had an anxiety attack immediately. Like it dropped you in, and I was like, they were like waiting. I guess the room's got to fill up before they can start the game, so everyone's waiting in like the main area for enough people to. And I think I was the last one we didn't have to wait. Like the second I came in, like okay, let's go. And like first of all, you're a million people talking, which I hate that about multiplayer games. It's just like a bunch of it's like chaos, audio chaos, and like so. I go to the thing and it starts and like I was an imposter, I think one of two imposters. So I'm like, fuck, that's like way more responsibility. And like, so I'm like, I start running around. I'm like, fucking, I'm like, okay. And like, I'm fucking trying to kill someone. And like, I kill someone. I'm like, okay. And I point the body out like, okay. Trying to like, again, like, okay, yeah, I was in there, but I found them kind of idea. And then I think I got into a gate a little bit, whatever. Or no, I got into a gate and found someone, then killed them. And then when you kill someone and point out a body, and like this wasn't in the tutorial, like it just drops everyone back in the main room. So now we got to talk about it. And it's like that experience. I just left. I was like, I can't do this.
Oh my gosh!
I can't fucking do it. It was like, first of all, the one kid screamed like, "This is sus. That's sus." I was laughing my ass off about that. But yeah, like I don't know. I just couldn't. I don't know. I can't. It's too. It's not. I don't know. It would be a lot more fun, I'm sure, with a smaller group of people that I know. So it's like a cohesive conversation and, whatever. You're interacting with like what you at least perceive to be in your fucking spectrum of judgment, well-rounded human beings. But what was going on in that room, and it was like, I don't even know how many people it was, 12 or I think maybe only, I don't know, something like that. Definitely double-digit people, and it was fucking chaos. I just cannot explain how chaotic it was. It was so, and again, especially it was way worse because I was the imposter, and I had to like, I just froze up. I couldn't. I had nothing. I was like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like there were guys like everyone trying to explain where they were and what they were doing and why they're not whatever, and I was like, I just don't have the vernacular that all of them had too. They all had. In the same category as the sus shit. It's like they have like a vernacular for explaining what they're doing and why they're not.
The sus shit, I can't. My daughter just says stuff is sus now because of that game. Like,
I know. And I'm telling you, I was laughing. That's exactly what I was laughing about when I was in there. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, dude. It was so, it was so fucking overwhelming. It stressed me out so badly, and I haven't touched it since.
I can't believe you paid $9 in VR for a game that is free to play everywhere else, and then you dropped it in the middle of it.
Way better in VR. I mean, it's especially for that, because you're like, you go into the ducks and shit, like, and like the idea, the one of the things I always talk up about VR is kind of the communication, and like there's a completely different. At least for me, I guess maybe this isn't applicable to all human beings, and every experience is different, and what you value in communication. But like the idea that like you are a 3D organism in the space, and you look over and have a conversation of an intelligent conversation with someone and exchange ideas to another 3D organism in the space. And like, there's something about that is completely different than whatever in a fucking on a flat screen. It's just different. It's different. Communication is different. The way it feels to me is completely different than just talking to a mic. Like, I'm talking to a person. I can perceive that and experience that as talking to a person. If I'm talking to someone on a flat screen in a multiplayer game, it's just two people on fucking these headsets talking, like a phone call. It's a phone call. Like, they're completely different experiences to me. And for that reason, because this game is entirely predicated on that, there's no question it appeals to me more as a game to play in a VR space as opposed to a flat screen.
But are you going to try it again, though? That's the question.
I don't know. Again, like, if I could play with people that I can handle being in a room with, yes. Because that's the thing too. It's so much more real. It's communication that I don't want to be in a room with people I don't want to be with. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to fucking. It's like, I don't even know how many of them are kids. Some of them were definitely kids, and like.
But yeah, that's kind of like Demio. Demio, you jump into a game with somebody, and it's kind of
but if someone sucks, I leave. Or I mute them. I mute a lot of people on Demio, like a lot of people.
Well, I mean, I feel like that might be different then, or maybe I just didn't play Among Us enough because I didn't. You know, I played it a few times with the kids and stuff because they would hear about it at school, and it was such a big thing. It's like, all right, let me down. Once it came to Xbox, it was like, let me freaking download this thing, you know. But I feel like whenever we would even get to the parts where a body was found and we're talking about that, it was all stock stuff. Like, you couldn't just be like, hey, you couldn't have like free-form conversations. And like, even in the hallways while you're doing things, unless I had something turned off that I didn't know about, I couldn't really just like turn and like talk to somebody like you're saying that you were doing in the VR game. So maybe I just didn't do that or didn't know that was possible. But that seems very different.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't. Maybe we couldn't. I didn't. I got out. I was too stressed out and got out of there too soon to really parse that. But I don't know. I guess maybe we couldn't talk until we got into the like post body found talk it out room. You know, because I don't remember
that
being
makes sense.
I don't remember being overwhelmed by people talking until then. Yeah. So maybe that's true.
But even then, that's still different.
That would make sense. That would make. I think that would be smarter because then it is just about behavior. You know, because that's you know, it's obviously that's why it's so fucking popular. It's a really appealing idea. The idea that you're just out like trying to decide based on people. That's why everyone in the room is explaining what they were doing. Like, oh, I was fucking with the blue guy doing, you know, fucking tinkering with this thing. It's like, that's what I was doing, so that's why I'm not, you know, don't vote for me. And then like when I just clicked on someone on the thing, I just voted for a random person, and they were like, what the fuck did somebody vote for me for? Like, I was doing this, that, and the other. I didn't, you know, I wasn't fucking, what do you mean? How could I even possibly be sus? That's funny. So, you know, there's, you know, I don't even begin to contradict the potential for fun there, and like it's a good idea. Again, it's just that fucking multiplayer thing, which is a million people talking, like fucking everyone buzzing around, like fucking, you know, like fucking I don't know, like a goddamn. It makes me. I equate in my mind to like a really chaotic atom, just like a million fucking. That
sounds more chaotic than on the screen, just like chat bubbles that you can read, so at least you can kind of read them sequentially versus just like people talking. But that's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, cool idea, and like I said, I can certainly see playing with a group of people that you like hanging out with would be a really, really fun experience, you know.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the only thing, it's not out yet, but the only other thing, the Myst Walkabout course drops on the 15th here in a few days, Jay.
There's a Myst course? Oh my
yes, dude, and it's like,
so that terrible game. Why does that game get its own inclusion into Walkabout? I don't know.
First of all, it's the highest selling PC game of all time, and has been for like, I don't know, 30 years, because it's a great game. That's the first reason. But
we bought it. We bought it too. That doesn't mean it's a great game. It's a terrible game. But
it's a great game. Playing it now in its original format without any remastering, you get the one on on Quest? You bought that one?
No. I'm saying I played Myst back in the day, and it was absolutely terrible.
Oh my god, that game was so incredible. Me and Ted were glued to our computer for
what? How? Why? I can't even
because,
right now. We're gonna go off on a tangent.
It was such a good fucking. I mean, that again, dude. It sold an insane number.
It was
the
worst game of all time. Let me see. Is it the worst game of all time or one of the worst games of all time? Let me look it up.
Insane thing to say. That's definitely not what the internet's gonna say. It's find it's like whatever. Like what's the most universal video game judgment entity? Metacritic or something? I bet it's like 98% or something.
No way.
IGN, maybe IGN. I don't know who would have been the PC Magazine or something. Get PC Magazine's rating. Google that. What's PC Magazine's rating for Myst?
I don't really care because my rating matters more than
or
theirs,
PC
so.
Gamer. Maybe that's what it was called. PC Gamer.
It's terrible.
PC Gamer Myst rating.
Mixed. 4 out of 6. 2 out of 6 negative.
4.5 out of 5 from PC Mag. 78% Metacritic. 68% PC Gamer is way lower than I would have guessed.
Exactly. It is nowhere near. The game sucks, man.
Awards. Games 100. Game of the Year.
Yeah, those people are wrong.
Broke. Satellite Award for Best Interactive Product Video Game.
How?
Because it's a fucking incredible game. It's an incredible game, an incredible story.
I mean, I did not do drugs in the 80s. I was a child. But whatever these people were doing while playing that game, I wish I was able to access that, to enjoy it in a similar fashion.
In any event,
that's all I'm going to say about that.
There's zero debate. It was the most visually impressive game to date of its time. It literally
all it was visuals. That's all it was.
No, it was puzzles and storytelling. Also,
oh my gosh.
Yes, there was no shooting shit because it was not an action game. It's not supposed to be. But no, it was it's credited by many PC gaming historians, I guess is the way to term that, as the thing that standardized, or it was the piece of software that standardized the general public's perception of a need for having a CD-ROM in their desktop. Being able to play this game,
that doesn't make it a quality game, though.
Yes, it does. That many people wanted it. That's the point. That the demand was so high that it changed the media with which people chose to do their home personal computing.
They did something right. They had some stunning visuals, and everybody was like, holy smokes, I gotta have one of these because I want to be able to see and play games that have this type of visuals, but give me something that's actually good. That was my take on it. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, that's totally wrong. That's totally wrong, Jay. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Visually, it's still an impressive thing when modernized, and I actually haven't played because I'm not gonna, It's $30. It's way too expensive. It needs to be. That should be like $10. Whoa. The remastering on Quest VR of Myst. So I haven't played that, but I haven't played it period since the mid to late 90s. So I'm sure it's been modernized, and probably a lot of the clunkiness of what would be an old kind of click game would be smoothed over a little bit in that. But anyways, I haven't tried it. In any event, the everything I've read about the Myst course is like they have built puzzles into the putt-putting, which to me, oh my god, like fucking.
They built puzzles into the game?
Yeah. There's like, kind of, what I think of is that one hole in the Labyrinth course where the whole move, like that kind of, or not where the whole moves, but where they have the two guards and you have to like figure out which one is telling you the truth based on its behavior or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. About which one is the door to go through or whatever. Like that's the kind of shit I think of, like finding ways to work that kind of like relatively simple logic puzzle, which is a little bit of a bummer because that kind of thing will go away after the first time you play the course, but it's still cool and I'm sure it will look awesome and be fun. So I'm looking forward to that.
Dave's theme from Maniac's Mansion, bringing us back into this next issue. Great cover.
Maniacs. It's not possessive.
Maniacs. This is the Maniac's Mansion. It will always be the Maniac's Mansion. I know that the real name is Maniac, but like as a kid, I don't know why. It's just one of those things.
Maniacs.
Maniac's Mansion.
For sure. Alpha Guard. Same thing. Yeah. This is September, October 1990. $350 US, $450 Canadian dollars cover price. And yes, Jay, this is a dope ass cover. This is my favorite Nintendo Power cover, I think.
Really?
Yes, I love this artwork. And obviously that opinion is informed by my love for the game too, I'm sure, but I also just think there's just so much going on there. It's so well done. It's so stylized. It's just a really, really, really fun cover. And because it's probably, it's one of the funner IPs. That's why there's just more to work with, I think, artwork-wise, So yeah, it's in that usual claymation style of the time, and they are showcasing the entire house the story takes place in. There's a bunch of characters hanging out of windows and whatnot. We can see Dave, Razor, Wendy, Michael, Weird Ed. Both the tentacles are there, green and purple. The comet is flying over in the sky. The telescope is sticking out the top floor. There's tentacle slime on the front steps. There's weird light coming out of the basement window from Doctor, what the fuck is Doctor? Whatever, the doctor's laboratory. It looks fucking great. Yeah, it's a really, really, really well done cover and really great representation of, again, the IP. It's really well done.
Also, there's something about that hot pink to yellow color combination that that was popular at that time, that felt futuristic and cool. It's like, oh yeah, it just kind of adds with the black background. It works very well, pairs well together.
Yes, nice color palette. Yeah, it is the color scheme is no doubt very 90s. That pink and the yellow, green. It's just all those neon colors are just and that's kind of but this game was made in the 80s, so I don't know how much you can draw that.
It was around that same period, because like
correlation.
Yeah, it was. I feel like that late 80s to early 90s, there was kind of blended.
I think
it depends.
I don't think the neon thing happened till the early 90s, man. Like that's and that's what I mean. Like this game, I want to say like 86 or something was the first, 87 maybe, something like that. What? Definitely like the original and the NES. These colors of the characters and stuff are those are representative of the original PC IP too. So that's not tweaked for whatever reason. It was just
ahead of its time then, perhaps.
Ron Gilbert was ahead of his time. Just saw the neon shit coming. Either way, it fucking looks great and it's fun. So our headlines here, we have Don't Miss, Mission Impossible, and Kickle Cubicle. We have Plus Previews, TMNT, the arcade game, Solar Jetman, and then Special, Giant Game Boy feature. So moving inside, we start off with the two-banger Team Power Pin subscribe to the mag spread, then hit the TOC, and the fold-out poster is highlighted here. It's original Solar Jetman artwork on the one side and a Mission Impossible map on the other. The poster is fucking really dope. Posted that on the socials, of course. And the first up, as far as content goes, is the Player's Pulse, where we start with the mailbox. And the bat tip letter from Jimmy Teague in Imperial, Missouri is trying to one-up the mag's boss battle tips in the January-February issue with the way to cheese the electrocutioner in stage 3-4. And isn't this the one that you devised? Isn't this the thing that you pointed out when we did the game episode, where you're getting them to turn around and face the far wall and just dirk them? From
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Like me and Jimmy, we're here.
Yeah. No, I wasn't there. I did that the hard way.
Although so I wish they showed like what letter they're talking about. They're like, oh, you must use every marker in the palette to write this letter. I'm like, why didn't they show us a picture of that letter?
Right, and they do that so often. Well, actually, did they?
Like, not? I can't tell from the bottom. Like, I tried to scroll, like zoom in. I can't really tell if it's like one of those in the corner.
One of those in the corner, yeah. They do that a lot where they do show the artwork and stuff. So
maybe it is, and I just can't tell because it's so small.
Yeah. And we have, this is a great one, I think. There's a future scientist is from, that's the name of the thing, is from Jimmy Klebick in Fairbanks, Alaska, and he's writing in to share his independent science project that is designed around the hypothesis that NES players would have better hand-eye coordination than non-gamers. So, first of all, Fucking smart hypothesis.
Let's go, kid.
Yes.
Let's go.
Right. He doesn't share his data gathering angles, but does confirm that his findings support his hypothesis. So he's doing a good job of adhering to the scientific method here. And he also includes a picture of himself in front of his presentation board for the science fair, which he would win. He says he went on to win the district blue ribbon for and be invited to the state science fair where he would win the blue ribbon for his entire grade that year. And that's pretty fucking dope, Jimmy.
Right.
And looking at this 3-panel folding presentation board, does this strike a chord? Did you ever do any of these things? Did you ever have to?
Of course, man. Are you kidding me? I had science fair things that I created that like were a buzz in elementary school that we were going to sell my invention to McDonald's. Or no, that was middle school. That my invention was going to get sold to McDonald's.
What the fuck was your invention?
Dude,
what was your invention?
I can't mention on air because somebody will steal it. And it's been trademarked. And maybe someday it's going to come to fruition, man. But yeah. I'm just going to tell you, if you ask my mom about it or my brother, like we still laugh about it to this day. But yeah, I'm very, very familiar with this type of thing.
That's really great.
I mean, that's a standard. My daughter still makes the science fair stuff with those big poster boards.
Those big, the trifold thing. That's amazing that those are still around. I think about that all the time. About like I want so badly to know the parallels and the perpendiculars to like what school is like now versus our, like how different is it? And like I don't even know what the context would have been where I can't think of any specific examples, but like there have been times where like I have somehow interacted or like got shown something or like at someone's house, they have some shit going on with their kid or whatever the fuck it is, where like that's the fucking same. Hasn't been modernized anyway. How the fuck is that still the same? That's a great example of that, but.
So yeah, it's crazy though. Like everything else feels completely different though. Like that, maybe it's just like the school, the different schools that my daughter's in. Because like her elementary school was like very similar. Like I said, a lot of the same things. Like wow, that's so crazy. But then now I don't know if like COVID forced things forward, but like in her middle school, everything is different. Like they do this online learning where it's like very much like college, and you got to go to office hours, and like it just. I'm like, this feels super different, and like the way it's done and how they're taught. I'm just like, okay, like you're doing all like they change it. So I think it just depends on where you're at,
Sure. That's wild. Okay, well, yeah. So same for me. I definitely had an experience with these too. So I was in this gifted and talented program thing in 4th and 5th grade, and that was part of the curriculum in there. And I remember in 4th grade doing a history of American football on one of these things, and dude. Like it was cut up like who knows how many Sports Illustrated mags for pictures and stuff. I made this. I remember this very specifically. This historical timeline with construction paper showing
nice.
Like shit. Just hit my microphone with my excited story here. So fucking yeah. It was like a timeline. I like Jim Thorpe and like whatever like all the different milestones nice. for the development of American football and shit. And yeah. Oh, man, I wish so badly I had pictures of that. I bet it was fucking amazing. Yeah, I remember another one that was science-minded of some kind. I remember having to go somewhere for it. I want to say it was like a Boy Scouts thing or some shit when I was a little younger than 4th grade. But it's, again, the memory is too fuzzy to specifically place, but I mean I was so into science, dude. I had so many I had all these books and shit, like these I remember like there was a subscription to I want to say like an Encyclopedia Britannica type thing where like it was like 26 of them I think, and I remember getting like after I got the whole set, I remember a couple years where I got like an addendum book, and they were like they had the spines was red with gold writing on them, and they had a lot of pictures, and like they would have just all sorts of different physics and whatever all different kinds. I remember the one I remember really fucking just fixating on was there was an atomic bomb one that was, and I think they were just in alphabetical. Again, I think they were very like science encyclopedias essentially. And yeah, I remember like the first issue had atomic bomb in an A, so like, or the first book rather. So I remember just fucking like reading that one over and over and just being so fascinated by the concept of nuclear weaponry. Yeah, Yeah, fucking really, really, really cool memory. But yeah, I had a bunch of shit like that. I had these really. I wish I could remember I've tried to look these up a million times and I can't ever fucking find them. But they were like these plastic shells, kind of like almost like movie tape cases, but a little bigger, and they had kind of like this vinyl thatch patterned outside, and each one was like a different kind of science, geology or optics, or like different areas of science. And they inside was like materials to do hands-on science experiments with that were on topic, with those. And I had like the whole, I don't know, fucking a dozen or 15 of those, and like an entire huge bookcase. On the bottom was those science encyclopedias, and the top was those fucking those science things, chemistry sets, microscope, that all that shit. I was fucking I wanted to be, I think I've said them before, I wanted, 7th grade I shadowed a chemist, like I wanted to be a fucking scientist when I was a kid. So yeah, so I absolutely certain that I did something like this and tried to present it to who God knows who. But yeah, fucking those are really, really cool memory, and seeing that really sparked that for sure. Moving on, we have are there any other letters did shit for you? Like, it was kind of a little bit boring otherwise. The trick or treat is the Halloween costumes, but nothing really that great was in there. I was kind of disappointed in those. Actually, the lack of just some fucking Super Mario shit, which isn't that interesting.
Same.
Yep. So Video Spotlight goes adult this issue, something I do not customarily support, but in this case, I condone. It is Hurley Blackwell of Baltimore, Maryland. He's telling us about his formation of the Up-Nor Nintendo Football League, otherwise known as the UNFL, and its inaugural season that has crowned Bobby Barbera its Tecmo Bowl champion. And
early football tournaments.
Yep, fucking A. Yeah, we have 10 players ranging from ages 15 to 28, 18 regular season games, and the ensuing playoffs. And bravo, Kamish, we way to blaze your trail. Yeah, really,
That's
really
awesome.
Cool. Yep.
I mean, I wonder if they did it like on Sunday. Oh yeah, it did say, like on Sunday, like, all right, you two play, now you two play, or like with a couple Nintendos at a time. Like, that sounds like a freaking blast.
Yep.
I mean, clearly you can do that now if you had like the people, you know what I mean, on like pick your platform, pick your game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's now, I mean, that concept. There are massive national tournaments and shit where people get to like congregate and play in old school NESs, like lots of people to do those. So yeah, it's like Tecmo Bowl is it's an institution, man.
Tecmo. Yeah, we could go on another tangent about Tecmo. I won't even start.
We're getting there. TSB's coming. So the first feature is a 6-banger on Final Fantasy, and they devote a couple pages to game narrative, the waterfall, Mirage Tower, the Sky Castle, but this feature is mostly about other shit. They tease the strategy guide that's hitting subscribers' mailboxes next month, and then outline the continuation of their Final Fantasy Treasure Quest contest, and tack on a special bonus contest, the Warmech Challenge. And the Treasure Quest prize this time around is the Grand Salami, a real Final Fantasy adventure. Their description of it: 300 years ago, Dutch privateers built a fort on the island of Tortola in the British Virgin Islands, Fort Recovery. The stone tower is said to still hold a great treasure. Today, as the center of the Final Fantasy Treasure Quest, the 4 adventurers will seek to uncover its secrets. For 4 days and 3 nights, the winner and 3 friends will become the Light Warriors, wearing costumes from the characters in Final Fantasy and guided by an explorer's handbook created just for them. They'll set off to solve mysteries and uncover treasures. Reps from Nintendo Power will lead the adventures and videotape the fun. There will also be plenty of time to explore this Caribbean paradise. So the questions this time are, what is the gold value of the Mass Moon? And there's no fucking way we know what that is because you would never sell that. So that's a great question. And how much would you pay for both Life 2 and Nuke? So very, very late stage game questions. So you'd have to have really done some work in order to be able to participate in this particular slice of the contest. And yeah, man, just they teased this in the last issue. It's so fucking cool. I had been so upset that I couldn't find anything else on the interwebs, so I got a hair on my ass and posted on a few applicable subreddits about this, praying for some leads, and actually got a nibble. So someone posted a link to a post similar to mine from years ago, where years after the original post, someone posted saying they were in fact the winner so many years back. So, initially you're kind of like, yeah, fucking right, dude. But the thread goes on for a number of exchanges between he and the OP, and there's like a somewhat vague but lengthy and seemingly earnest recounting that gives mentions they still have the quest journal they were given, and like he said, it was really cool, but it was basically just a 3-ring binder, which is kind of like a little bit of a specific that I kind of like can latch on to as believable, you know what I mean? And he said he would try to dig out of the closet, but that post died, which is kind of a bummer, and also kind of a little bit of a maybe it's full of shit. And I was like, okay, and I started DMing the fuckers. I DM'd a bunch of times, no response, so that's fucking dead stick. But the link to that post on Reddit is in the show notes, and I'll of course follow up if I ever hear from him again. But out of that, someone recommended a 2+ hour Video Game History Foundation interview they did with a handful of peeps at the top of the Nintendo Power masthead, Howie, Gail Tilden, et cetera, and the link to that is also in the show notes. It's a really, really great watch, and they speak on this stuff in there, the contest that they did and shit, and how, there was one woman on the staff, I don't think it was Gail, I think it was another one, that her and her husband were really into fucking, I don't know, one of the racing things, not NASCAR, but the open wheel, whatever the fuck it is. And they had a bunch of those, and she would always like fucking, politically navigate her way to being the one that chaperoned those trips. And like, they talk a lot about how it was like a big political fucking battle at the top of the Nintendo marketing division, because it was, such cool trips and shit that they would get to do. And Gail talked about how like they would have to send someone there to scout restaurants and shit, and they actually spoke specifically about this one and saying how 3 of the 4 kids. So they spoke so specifically about it, because we've talked about, or I've mentioned at least, that like I didn't even believe it really happened, and like that's a lot of the speculation on the internet too. That just it didn't even happen. But like this is like highly specific, and I really do believe that it did happen based on this comments. But they said that 3 of the 4 kids were sent to Tortola with one of their big brothers and no parents. So that like
what?
No adults sent with them to fucking Tortola, the British Virgin Islands.
Because
it's the fucking 80s, bro. It's fucking 90s. It's fucking different times, man. Different fucking times.
Can you imagine? I cannot imagine.
Yeah, especially you as the Nintendo, like, whatever chaperone, like, they just show up and there's like, you don't have any parents with you? What do you mean? You're just fucking stuck with you fuckers. I mean, I'm sure the big brother was probably like 16 or 17, but still, like, that's nothing,
That makes the movie The Wizard more believable. Like, oh, just your big brother around, that's all?
Right.
Okay, got it. Going on an adventure.
Very different times. So the other contest, the Warmech one, simply requires that you snap a screenshot of your party in battle with the robot and mail it in. And one submitter will be selected and have their name programmed into an unnamed future NES game. And the internet's absolutely did have the whole story of this, so this is pretty cool, I think. Oh. So, and they actually did the kid kind of fucking dirty, I feel like. It didn't pay off in the way that I think it's presented up front, So, one Chris Houlihan was the kid's name, was the lucky winner, and his name ended up in the next Legend of Zelda game, which sounds fucking awesome. Link to the Past on the SNES.
Yeah.
And that, at its surface, very cool, of course. Not really something to complain about as long as it happened. But the way it was implemented was a hidden room that was created, and it has been dubbed since the Chris Houlihan room in the game. So it's this room. There are 225 rupees to be picked up and a plaque on the wall that reads, "My name is Chris Houlihan. This is my top secret room. Keep it between us, okay?" And that, again, sounds fucking awesome.
That's great.
Super fucking cool. Yeah. But one catch. You can't access the room via normal gameplay means. You have to glitch some code via ulterior emulation means. Like, you can't do it. Yeah. Like, I put the article in the show notes. I couldn't even really understand when I was reading, so I leave it to your own interpretation. But again, in the show notes. But
so basically, I can't just turn my Nintendo on and play it
and go find it. Yeah, like it's like, I think there's like, again, it was so hard. I couldn't exactly understand, and it's only magnified by the fact that's not a game I really played a ton of. SNES didn't have it. I mean, I played it enough, but I don't have, the other Zelda games. If you ask me anything from them, I probably have the answer, like that one. I played it a little bit. I definitely never got terribly far in it. Certainly never beat it. Didn't have an SNES. Don't have like this really strong nostalgia link to it. So I'm not going to try to, or would never try to speak to it as strongly as I would some of the earlier ones, or even the later ones. Just that's a phase of Nintendo I wasn't on. So I think it's like you have to it's like a dash or something. It's like a hole you got to get to. There's like something like maybe it's possible within the spectrum of the regular gameplay, but super difficult if so. And it seemed like most, if not all, people were only able to access it by glitching something. You know what I mean? So cool, but kind of not cool.
Not that cool.
Yeah, I hear my name's gonna be in a game, and I'm thinking like I'm gonna be a character that everyone's gonna interact with or something. You know what I mean? Like that's a little bit different of an implementation than I expected. Or
that anybody who picks up the game can eventually find you or where your name is and text to you like, hey dude, I found you, there's your spot or whatever.
Can you imagine the superhero status of being that kid in his elementary school cafeteria? If because that I guess that maybe is the emotional tug string that I think is the fucked up part, that this kid won. And I mean, I presume they let him know, so he was aware at the time, so he knows it's coming. And the second you get that letter or the notification, whatever it would be, you would tell everyone you know. You tell everyone you fucking know. The next Zelda game, I'm in that shit. Bow before me now. And then it comes out, and it's a different time. You can't just go to the internet and be like, no, I'm serious. Even if you show the letter, it doesn't matter. If you can't show them in the game, they're like, fuck you.
And then your cousin's friend comes and he's like, yeah, so I stayed up the past 2 weeks and I played through everything. I have not found this room. I don't think your cousin's in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then I think
he's lying,
that word of that word of mouth just buries you for your whole life. Yeah, tough break, man. Tough break as a kid for sure. The cover feature is next. We get 6 pages on Lucasfilm Games and Jaleco's port of PC point-and-click legend Maniac, not Maniacs, but whatever, Mansion. Have I told you that I love this game, Jay?
You have. When you first mentioned it, I was like, did we talk? I was like, oh yeah, we talked about this game.
Yeah.
I mean, the copy here, I have to say, is very intriguing. I'm coming at this because I just heard of it. Oh, that's the Maniac's Mansion. That's everywhere. But so that's all I knew. But I came in here and said, I'm reading the copy. It's pulling me in a bit. Like it's making me want to play. And the more I read, the more I was like, all right, I feel like this is going to be good, but I feel like it's going to take me some time. And I played it, and obviously it's point and click, and I feel like I could have perhaps gotten into this back in the day. Not now though, but I could see how this could have been really cool back then.
Yes, yeah, the UI is a tough thing right now, I think, especially via if having a mouse and actually being able to point and click at things increases or decreases the difficulty or just the abrasiveness of that UI immensely. Having to use a Nintendo controller in particular, extra shitty. I will say they did, there are, I've read about it, so this isn't just my perception, but they did things speeding up the cursor and stuff that made it a better experience for the NES control pad than it would have been if they'd have just straight ported it and not made any effort towards that. So there was a consideration of and some time and attention paid to making that a little less shitty, but it's still tough, I think, for sure. I would not argue that at all. But as far as the game goes, yeah, man, it's so goddamn original and so unique and so fun and so funny and so great. It's just so it just blew my fucking 10-year-old mind, man. It was so creative and out there, and so there's just no games didn't get made for the NES like this. It just there's nothing this original, this different, I was not. That's why, I had like real light previous. I think I mentioned this last issue or one of these last few issues. A little bit of an exposure to the King's Quest and the Space Quest on PC at my cousin Lisa's house. So like I kind of had seen that like really. I don't know. That's the best you're gonna get open world concept at that time, So I like seen that before, but this was the first one that ever got dropped in alone in my bedroom and just experienced on my own with no supervision and no guidance and just like, here it is, kid. Good luck, And like that was just it's such a strong fucking memory and something I enjoyed so much as a kid. I was telling Mac on the Facebook page, actually, we're talking about that very exact specific thing, and he was saying kind of the same thing. But
yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I still gave it like a solid like hour. Like I was still like playing, and doing stuff, and just being like, I gotta find the cassette first. I was like, I gotta go in this place. It's dark. There's gotta be that person has a flashlight. I gotta, you know what I mean? So I was like looking for that.
Who did you pick? What characters did you pick?
I think I had Michael, Wendy, and Jeff, maybe.
Well, you had to have Dave.
Or Michael, Wendy, and Dave. Then.
Okay, word.
I think that. Yeah.
Yeah. That aspect. Yeah, that aspect of it is so cool that like that was also the thing that the replayability is just stratospheric compared to most NES games because it's a completely different video game. Your entire flowchart to success is completely different with every one of those variables you change. Like, you can, I guess that's not true. You can have Razor and probably beat the game straight with Razor's flowchart, regardless of who your third person is. But either way, just so much customization and gameplay experience based on the fact that you can change those characters and there being such a wide variety of them, so fucking cool.
I believe it. Really. As I started playing through it and I was looking at this, I was like, oh man, should I start over and get Jet, or should I start over and play Bernard? Like he has all the electronic stuff. Like I feel like that's going to be useful. Like maybe I should drop Wendy. Like I was like, so I could totally see how for sure if this was like the game I got for Christmas or something, it was like this is the game you get. I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna roll with this.
Yeah, this will definitely take up some time. Yeah, no, really, just I never owned it as a kid. I had it as a rental experience and I didn't leave my fucking bedroom, dude. I just, God, like this is clearly going to take some time. I need to focus. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, really, really, really good memory in this game. Yeah. So yeah, they spend a couple pages explaining the type of game it is, which is smart because the NES hasn't seen anything like it yet. And then they provide an awesome map of the whole house to help you visualize the geography of the story world. And that's the amazing thing too, like the non-linearity of the geography is rather original for an NES game. It's just there's so many things about it that are boundary pushing for what you see on the NES. That's certainly one of them too. And there's so much interesting shit going on. Obviously the characters, there's the cutscene shit that it explains and all that. And they have they go through and they spend there's a breakdown of the 6 characters and they kind of explain what each one of them is and how, other than the boring and useless Dave, how they can help you beat the game. And yeah, Dave is essentially, like, the joke is, of course, that Dave is essentially your brick pusher. I assume you got captured, so Dave is your basement brick pusher. That's all Dave ever does until the very end. I think you had to use Dave for something at the very end, but it's essentially he just hangs out in the basement and pushes that brick. So that's pretty funny.
Oh, man. I was wondering if he had any usability, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, nothing specific. No, just that he's the girl that got captured's boyfriend. So he's part of the love story. I think there's actually, I was reading something. He can die if he dies, because kids, it's hard to die in the game, but you can die, and there's like an ending for Dave being dead. Wendy, wow. Or not Wendy. Whatever the girl's name is, that is in the lab. She has like a specific dialogue piece in the video game programming for Dave being dead when you rescue her, which is great. It's just so good. And so yeah, they have a couple of proposed groupings to try the game with. and a handful of general interest tips for the game. So the first grouping they suggest is Dave, Bernard, and Razor. That's the electronics app 2 with Bernard, yes. And Bernard is probably, he's the main character in Day of the Tentacle, the sequel. And he's probably the one who has like came out in the story world as being the most popular, I would say. And then Razor is musical inclination. She's like the punk rock girl. And I was actually, again, what the fuck was that? Oh, just one of the podcasts I listened to. Which one was it? Just did Maniac Mansion. What the fuck was that? That British one that I listened to. What the fuck is it? Whatever. Doesn't matter. But yeah, they did this and they were talking about a lot of the history stuff. And I think it's Tori Amos, they said. But she is like modeled, like the developers have like specifically described that she is modeled after Tori Amos. And this one, like one of the songs is like a Tori Amos riff or something. They were talking about like the character inspirations for a lot of them are like these very specific things that the developers had. So the other group is Dave, Wendy, and Michael, and you have writing for Wendy. She's the one she's trying to get the manuscript done. That she's trying to adapt the Meteor. The Meteor wrote a manuscript, and she's trying to get it published for him, and that's the way you endear yourself to the Meteor with her. And then Michael is film developing, so there's a dark room as one of the rooms in the game. You can find some film developer, and there's some pictures that are Weird Ed's for his little commando operation or whatever, trying to fucking save his dad. He's got some pictures, some shit that you can develop for him and endear yourself to him and enlist his help because he's got to. You need another person's help when you're doing the end run of the game, and you have to. Yeah, you either have to. You're either trying to get the tentacle with some of the music stuff because the tentacle's trying to get his mixtape fucking picked up by a label, or trying to get the Meteor to help you by getting the manuscript published. It's just just so fucking creative. Flow chart for the game narrative, and the layout and design of the feature. We kind of just like the way this looks. We talked about it on the cover, but like the way this looks, the awesome colors, the art laid out over wacky ass background, this all perfectly fits with the tone of the game. This is a really well done piece about a really well done game.
I never knew that Day of the Tentacle was Maniac Mansion 2.
Yes.
Never heard it, because like Courtney would talk about Day of the Tentacle, like she re-downloaded that on the Xbox like months ago and like played through it and stuff, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I love this," and I was kind of just like, "Okay, never heard of that game really." Did not know it was connected to Maniac Mansion.
In Day of the Tentacle, in one of the characters' bedrooms is a PC with Maniac Mansion on it. You can play the entire original Maniac Mansion game. That's how I played. When I played Maniac Mansion a while back, that's how I did it. I played it inside of Day of the Tentacle. Like that's the entire game there, which is again, that's the kind of thing crazy. That is not nearly as wild or out there of an idea and as cool today. It's been done, but this was the first time that you're seeing that, like a whole game inside, like a whole game well enveloped inside of another game. Is really well done. Really good job of that. So that's very, very cool. I would recommend both. They're both great games. I hadn't, that remaster I did on mobile was, I've loved this game for 30 years and like just recently played Day of the Tentacle. So like, I didn't have any nostalgia for that and I still loved it. Great experience. Really well done. Very, very good. And the remaster is obviously good. And that's one of the ones you can, I think, swap back and forth instantly between the original.
Oh, the modes.
Yeah, which is always a cool feature. So fuck it. I love this game, and I want badly to railroad you into playing it because I want you to understand my emotions and share in my enjoyment of this universe. But yes, I am really afraid. I'm so impressed and so happy that you spent an hour with it just as a fuck around thing because my expectation was that immediately of interacting with that UI, you'd be like, nope, fuck this.
I would have, but like I said, there was enough reading. It's a game that I'm well familiar with, like name recognition wise only, not like. But then, so when I got into it, I was like, all right, it's point and click, but let me just see, let me just actually give it the good old college try, as they used to say.
Yeah. I would say I'm sure there is. I haven't looked it up myself, but I'm sure there is a remaster of it that you could play on like a mobile platform or something, that would be obviously a way better experience than trying to play it via this. Yeah, because it's kind of like it's in one of it's like Shadowgate too. It's just as far as this podcast goes, like doing it for a game. It's not impossible. I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot for a game episode. So I don't know. Yeah, I want you so badly to play it and have an affinity for it. I worry whether it fits into what we're doing with this as a game episode. And like it's not enough for a side. It sucks because it's not enough for a side quest. It's too much for a game episode. Like what? How does it fit in? You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
So we have Howard Nestor after that, and they are going with the Mafat conspiracy as the underlying IP and the underlying game, and we just can't get away from it, dude. It permeates everything we read for this goddamn podcast. This fucking video game.
How long will it last? At what point will we be past this game? Will it be 91? We'll be
yeah,
92,
never, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty sure this comic is inappropriately undermining the Muslim religion. I don't know. Did you actually read this comic?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering the same thing. I was like,
Yeah. These two fuckers are after a guy named Ahmad Khan, and Nestor refers to his hijab as a beehive on his head, and later calls him a bandage brain. And
I was like, wow, that would not.
Yeah, that would not apply in 22. That's not fucking cool. Different time though. Top 30 after that, we get Final Fantasy debuting strong at the second spot. And the top 5 rounds out with Super Mario Bros. 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ninja Gaiden 2, and Super Mario Bros. 2. And
that's a hot top 5, man. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, I have no disagreements at all.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's a little bit of a change in the guard, I would say. That like there's no Legend of Zelda, there's none of the old none of the Metroid, none of the Mike Tyson's Punch Out, no Super Mario Bros. 1, like none of the the early wave of games are kind of being replaced by the new.
Yeah, they're way farther down on the scale now.
Yep. So it's kind of an interesting, I don't know, just talking about timelines here and the development of fucking console gaming. Like this is kind of like the new guard coming in. It's Adventures of Lolo 2 making its first appearance despite being out since March at 23 was interesting to me. It's like a good indie movie starting on just a few screens and working its way nationwide is kind of how I thought of that when I saw it. And a really interesting note about Punch-Out being at 24, other than how asinine it is to suggest there are 23 better games on the NES at the time or ever, but they've dropped the Mike Tyson's preamble for the first time that I've noticed, at least.
But that's Punch-Out 2, though, isn't it? Or is that just...
No, Punch-Out... No, the second... The next Punch-Out is on SNES.
Oh, that's right. So... Oh, yeah, it was definitely...
This is just the re-release with Mr. Dream... happened in August. So it's a sad day in video game history. Yeah. Right, exactly. Fuck that. Oh. But it is funny to see it acknowledged even here, So.
I feel like those people got tricked and maybe they just bought it not knowing that's why it's that popular. They're still on the train.
That's a really interesting. I didn't even think about that, whether their computation of this is exclusively a function of the numbers of this re-release, or if it's some sort of cumulative whatever of the other title.
Yeah.
Or the Mike Tyson edition, rather. I'd be curious to know the specifics of that.
It's probably cumulative still. I would still think that that we can't keep his name on here anymore, but it's it's technically still the same game.
Yeah, I mean this is September. Yeah, there's no way. It goes without saying that there are still Mike Tyson copies probably being shipped from Nintendo, let alone still in retailers. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like what do they do? Did they say, hey, all of your Mike Tyson, you got to take it off the shelves at this date if you got it?
I mean, I would not put that past Nintendo of the time. They were Nazis about fucking everything with retailers, but yeah, I doubt that.
What are the chances of that happening?
Yeah, it seems
in the
80s. A little far-fetched, probably. See, that was it for the top 30 for me. There was nothing else, really. It was all kind of just same old otherwise. Batman's in there at 9. Battle of Olympus at 10 is kind of ridiculous to me, but I don't know. That's a game, I think, that's kind of like, it's like a Zelda 2 clone, essentially, that I think some people like more than others. I am certainly the latter on that, for sure. I didn't think that game was that great.
Yeah, I don't have that much familiarity with it, but yeah, I mean, the rest makes sense. I mean...
Yeah. Dragon Warrior at 16 there. That's kind of fun. Okay, so we next get a 3-banger on a Konami by way of Ultra joint I've never heard of called Roller Games. And they tagline this with the fastest action on 8 tiny wheels. And the art is post-apocalyptic roller skating with attitude and vibe. And that's kind of fun. I kind of like the idea of that. The maps and stage headings suggest a side-scrolling brawler on wheels, and that does not sound like my bag. The power meters are 75% though, so that's pretty fucking good. Maybe not horrible. Did you have any experience with this prior to hitting here in the mag?
So, this is the type of game that my mom would have brought home from Farmore. I would have had for like 3 days for 99-cent rental and would have just made do. So, I don't think I had played it before. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like, the sound and stuff sounds very familiar, but like the gameplay.
That's just Konami though. That's just like,
yeah,
Konami
that's what I mean.
stuff.
I'm like, I don't think I've played this game before. I don't think so. But I had fun playing it though. I did have fun. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I fired it up. It's like, side-scrolling beat 'em up on roller skates. I'm like, how bad are the controls for that gonna be?
Yeah, but there's actually, in my opinion, there are some extensive things to get used to with the controls, which is good. Like I want to go fast like all the time because you're roller skating. Like there's some nuance that you have to really get with it. I want to go fast because I'm on roller skates, but then if I do that, I invariably crash into things or fall in manholes, because I can't cut as fast as I want, as I want to. And so I feel like there's actually a fair amount of strategy when you're playing it too. It's not just like a walking beat 'em up on wheels. Like you actually do have to control yourself and what you're doing and where you're going. So it
was not the total slippery mess. I'm not suggesting it was. My expectation was that it would be. Yeah, it was not as the slippery mess that I thought it would be. It controlled all right. Again, for a game on skates, I thought it controlled pretty well. And it is absolutely a beat 'em up.
Yes.
And man, but those mechanics aren't bad either. Like it even it had double dragon grapple moves is kind of what I thought of. Like where you're pulling them down by the hair and then you're kneeing them in the face a few times before you toss them behind you, that kind of deal, So that was more to it. Was not just like skate around and punch people in the face. Like there was some kind of a little bit of strategy to the beat 'em up elements, and that has traditionally been fairly hard to do, or you don't see it a lot, at least well done on the NES. So I was kind of impressed by that. You do have a life meter for the brawling, but there is, yes, you mentioned the fucking manhole covers. There's a lot of insta-death shit with pits and those. And after that, you start back at the beginning of the stage and you even pick up wherever you left off. So that kind of had, I went through a whole cycle of lives in my play, and I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm all set. But it's a Konami game. It looks pretty solid. There's like some cool artwork in the beginning and shit. And, the music is fire because it's Konami. So, there's some stuff going on there for sure. There's some extra role playing. You have to pick one of the teams, T-Birds, Hot Flash, or Rockers at the start, and you set out to rescue the kidnapped owner of the roller game league. And it's not really explained why I should give a shit about him or her, and the whole thing is presented in like this smarmy television show way that harks to me, Running Man, is what I thought of, the Schwarzenegger flick, and that's like a reasonably good effort to build a story world for what is normally just to fucking beat 'em up, So I kind of commended for that, or I would commend it for that, but I would guess, like you said, if you had this as a kid, there's enough here where your memories of it would probably be pretty fond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was fun enough where I'm like, all right, I'm avoiding things, I'm fighting things, like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's go. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So it dropped in September, so that's Game Up Live. We'll talk about that later. And next is 2 pages of holy shit, it's finally fucking out, NES Play Action Football. Yeah. Also dropped in September, just in time for football season, so that's smart, I guess. About a year of dawdling and false promises from Nintendo about its release after that. And they even highlight that fact in the opening copy blurb. They say, better late than never. The updated NES Play Action Football has arrived just in time for the new season. And they go on to say, which, while carefully not mentioning any actual NFL intellectual property, how NFL Players Association license allows them to utilize team rosters, including team acquisitions as recent as spring 1990. So that's when the rosters are from, and that's, that is certainly we've talked about this before when mentioning this long lineage of delays for this game, but like that is an NFL. 90-91 is like I can probably name every player name on the entire NFL. Like that would have a football card anyways. Obviously, I can't name the backup linebacker that only plays special teams on most teams, but like if you're a starting player on an NFL team, if you say the name to me, I can tell you position and team. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, yeah. Mike Tomczak, Brad Muster, Neil Anderson. That's the Chicago Bear. I know. Just all too much stupid knowledge from that era of NFL football. I was just glued to my football card sets. And you had the luxury too, that particular era, like 90-91, 92 too, I would say it's applicable. That is the pro set heyday. So pro set, those sets were like 800 cards. So they had damn near every player down to the linebacker on special teams only. So like that, that's the only way you're learning. You're not you're not on the internet. You're not noticing rosters. Even when I'm watching games, I can't really follow enough to be able to learn players. But the football cards are static in your possession. And, you're just going through, reading them and putting them in fucking binders, taking them out of binders. Just all the different shit that my little fucking anal retentive organization-minded ass would have been doing with football cards back then. Like, I had all those players pretty memorized. So they get into all the hardcore simulation efforts in the game design, each team having its own 24-play offensive playbook, being able to run the plays as designed or flip them in reverse, and that kind of essentially doubles the number. And there's fatigue and substitutions. You have 16 defensive plays, and it's, of course, there's a whole bunch of the 4-player peripheral potential mentions. You have an NES Satellite Sunday, they say here. So that's obviously a cool feature that's new and very fun. And I love how in the little rosters blurb they mention you can play as the Rocket Arm John Elway, Hall of Famer, Ronnie Lott, Hall of Famer, or Mike Rozier's churning power at running back and not a Hall of Famer. Or really any professional note at all. And I actually said this to Jab. Yeah, I said this to Jab, and seeing as he was, Oilers RB, and Jab is an Oilers Titans fan, and even he laughed at that inclusion, so that is not a skewed perspective. Even an Oilers fan at the time is kind of like, what the fuck's he doing in there? And I wonder, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, he might have been, my guess is that he was a hot draft pick or something. He was definitely drafted, because actually what I found he was drafted ahead of Thurman Thomas, I think he was an 80. I want to say he was an 88 draft pick and drafted ahead of Thurman Thomas, which is hysterical.
So maybe that was one of those, like, this guy's going to be big. He's right. Let's get him in. We can get him for cheaper.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was, what the fuck was he? He was like, it was some sort of big program too. So obviously running backs coming out of big programs that can often look incorrect. Just be a product of the system or the team. There is no power meter for it here, and I'm wondering if this is a fleeting moment of journalistic integrity because it's a Nintendo of America release. I wonder why that is. Because obviously they've been fucking looking at this game for a year. They have an idea of what they want to give it a power meter wise. There's no way they haven't had enough exposure to it to come up with one. So I wonder what that's about exactly.
Yeah, that's very weird.
Yep. And we have already declared our mutual adoration of this game, despite its somewhat goofy and clunky gameplay style. Uncle Ted and I used to play the shit out of it, couch co-op style back in the day, and I've never done 4-player before, and I feel like this is one of my life experience to date's biggest shortcomings, having not done that. But
same.
Plenty of experience either way. So it's an interesting game. We just did a football game, so I think it's maybe a little bit tough of an idea to talk about it as a game episode, but I probably would still do it.
We should just play it anyway. Cause
that would definitely be some fun head-to-head shit with that. I mean, fucking, it sucks there's no Bills. I hate that there's only 8 teams, but it's still a fucking blast. What team do you use on there? What team? What's your?
I've switched it up. I don't have like a one that I like specifically. I've tried a couple. I love. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I love San Francisco because you can do the onside kick trick with Ronnie Lott. He's fast as fuck.
Oh my gosh.
That's one of those things though. If you're gonna play head to head, that needs to be one of those. You can't. That's not allowed.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, I love the game, but I was playing it the other day and definitely got whooped. So I was like, all right, I'm rusty. Let me get used to the catching mechanics again. I can run the ball. Let me get used to accurately catching the ball and things.
Yeah, the catch is you gotta because it's not you gotta figure out it's like at the base of that arrow, but a little bit off of it too. It's not.
Yeah.
It's and when it cuts from the wide to the close up right before the catch, which is a little extra. You gotta get your player to where it needs to be before we cut. If he's not in position by the time we cut to the close up, you're not catching that ball.
I'm like, no.
Yep. That's it's that simulation aspect of the gameplay is so they're just literally they have no basis by which to try to figure that, like, they have no previous example to go, okay, let's take that,
let's do it like that, yeah,
but make it a little better, and they are literally blazing a trail and a half with the gameplay in this game. So I would be reluctant to have any critical anything because they're just so boundary pushing as far as the football game goes, the simulation aspects. Yep. So we have classified information coming at us next, and I'm really glad we hadn't found this Captain Skyhawk level skip hack before doing the game app on it, or I'm certain you would have used it.
Yeah, of course. My first thing was like, okay, now we got the hack here. Yeah. Where were you 3 issues ago?
Yeah, you just have to hold up and be on controller 2 at any point during any stage, and your plane flies up and out of the level you're currently in, and you move on to the next. And that, I don't even know to have that, because that's most games don't just like to skip the level. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yes, level select, yeah, whatever, like different things to be able to move around in the game at will. But the idea of programming something in that's just kind of like, this sucks, fuck this, let me out of here. It's kind of, I don't know, you don't see that a lot, and that's an interesting design choice, I think.
That's because the game is terrible, and they were like, yeah, we're going to make it really tough on purpose because we hate you all, but we want to take your money. So, in case you figured out, this is a way to skip past the ones that you suck at.
Yep. The only other thing in here that meant anything to me is they tell you how to initiate the slide puzzle minigame in Final Fantasy. The rest of these, though, are just kind of meh. Nothing in there good, in my opinion. Anything in there that you stuck out to you? Plucked in nostalgia strings?
The Final Fantasy one, obviously, and then like the Tetris chick was pretty cheesy. Like, get an instant Tetris, come on. But other than that, nothing really interesting.
Instant Tetris, what was it?
Yeah, it's just like it's just cheese. Like, there's nothing. I don't know. It's one of those tricks. Just like, okay, this is a trick. It's not something that I'm going to regularly use in the game to like make me better and give me a higher score. It's like whatever.
Right. Yeah. Right, just one click above. Here's how you do the sound test.
Pretty much.
NES Achievers after that, and we have some decent Ohio representation here. A Maslin kid for Buenos Blah. We have Canton for Cobra Triangle, Delaware for Clash of Demon Head, Urbana for Mickey Mousecapades, the Dirty Natty for Rollerball, Avon for Super Mario Land, and Toledo for Top Gun 2. And there's a lot of commonly known spots in here, but Urbana jumped out to me as an opportunity for our first Ohio geography lesson in quite some time. Jay, where is Urbana, Ohio located? I'll insert the Jeopardy theme here.
I've always pronounced it Urbana, but I just know it's north of Columbus somewhere.
Okay.
Couldn't tell you where.
That sounds pretty good. That's a pretty good guess. It's in Champaign County, the Miller High Life of counties, just a stone's throw west of Franklin County, where your mighty amateur football team, the Buckeyes, hails from, yes. So the 2020 census clocks it in at 11,115 human beings buzzing about. There's only 2 things of any note whatsoever that were on the wiki, from my perspective anyhow, and one of them was some depressing ass shit I don't want to get into. The non-depressing one is where Clancy Brown was born, a damn accomplished character actor and producer. You recognize him if you saw his face. He was in Shawshank, Starship Troopers, a million other things. It's like a real authority figure type. He usually played like a fucking general or something.
Nice.
So he's from Urbana. That is the Super Mario Bros. 3 World 4 theme, bringing us into some more feature action in Nintendo Power 16. And the first thing we have here is 3 pages on Rare's Snake, Rattle, and Roll. This dropped back in July, so it's fair game. When I turned the page and I saw this, I thought to myself, I've never played this, but I feel like I've heard of it, and I see Rare, and I just had a feeling that it was going to be awesome. That was what I thought to myself when I first saw this.
Really?
And it's an isometric platformer where you play as a snake, and I see 2-player co-op mode touted, 72.5% on the power meter. The artwork is very cutesy. I'm like, okay, how can this go wrong? And I fired it up with that intent or that mindset, and it had Rare vibes right away. The title screen, it's got David Wise music, glaringly apparent when you first turn it on. Simple but good, and some interesting background animation. And even more when the game screen first popped up. And there's a very, what I would call, Captain Skyhawk color palette and graphics. And then, and you know this ain't a compliment, Solstice controls in the isometric play area grid is kind of how I perceive this. And you control a snake where you have to kind of power up to extend his body to a point where where it has enough power to ring this carnival strength test game style bell, kind of like the you slam the hammer down, how strong are you kind of thing that they have at carnivals. And you have a tongue attack that you can pick up power pellets and or attack a bunch of random shit flying all over the place that can take you out. And it all felt very messy to me. It was a very messy, sloppy control experience and gameplay experience. Did you have a differing?
I kind of came into it like, what am I even trying to do? Like, it took me a little while to figure out what
me too.
What I was trying to do.
I definitely bounced around like, dude, I need to ring this bell. I didn't realize that I had to get to a certain length that doesn't, there's no explicit.
Yeah, it's like objectives are unclear. Please assist.
Right.
So once I figured it out, yeah, I played until like level 3, so that's saying something,
Really?
I kind of got used to it. Once I got rolling a little bit, I was like, okay, I think I'm good here. But yeah, it was fun, man. The controls take a bit getting used to. Like, you really have to start understanding like what button press does what. There's some times where I feel like with some games like this, you can kind of fudge through it. Like, I'm just trying to go that way. Just take me that way. But like, there are, I think it was level 3 I was on, where there's waterfalls. If you don't jump in the right place, you're getting like washed down the waterfall and you got to start over. So it's like, I have to know that I need to hit up to jump that way, or I have to be on this scale. So learning that precision and like what it takes, so I guess what I'm saying is the learning curve is a little steeper. But once you get there, it's kind of like, okay, I can see this. I can see how this is a fun game.
I finished the first level. I finished the first level. And I think it was the second level where you just like you turn that corner and there's some water, and like the water was like a huge problem. Like,
yeah,
staying out of the water was a huge problem, and once you're in the water, you're fucked. And you don't die. But like getting back up on land, I think, was difficult. And there's obviously the things that track, like there's some sort of like a shark or something that tracks you when you go into the water that's like incentivizing you to get the fuck out of the water. Mm-hmm. So you can't, I guess, use the water as just like as like a bypass for the shit you got to deal with on land. That's the idea there. But yeah, that second level, I was like, I couldn't really get anywhere in it, and I kept dying. Like, you couldn't jump on the second level, I was like, nah, I'm good on this.
I died several times with that too, until I was like, okay, I got it. I think it was that level that had like, okay, I kind of like this. Once I finally got used to it a little more and figured out like, I don't know if it was luck or just figuring out like I got to land on this little spot so I don't get eaten by the shark in the water. Like,
yeah.
But it was fun after that.
Yeah, I wanted to like it. And again, maybe yes, if you a little more familiarity or a little more comfort level with the controls, rather, it might get there with it. But yeah, a little messy on just a short dabble. After that, we have a 3-spot on the September IRAM release of Kickle Cubicle. This was a cover deal, and it is a top-down action puzzler, and we all know that's a flavor I dig. The artwork is very cute. The story goes like this. Frozen solid by the Wicked Wizard King's magic, the fantasy kingdom awaits rescue. Our hero, Kickle, must use his hot powers and his gray cells to kick out the Wizard King and thaw the Fantasy Kingdom. And the power meter is 75%, and this is very clearly Adventures of Lolo vibes in every possible way. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. So I fired it up, and yes, it is Lolo. You can freeze stuff and use the frozen blocks and puzzle solutions, and you can just immediately tell it's good fun. I like Lolo more probably, but immediately evident that this is a good game, well designed. The puzzle elements are cool. The freezing tool is like a nice twist on, yes, an already existing concept in Lolo. So like, just everything about it, I was pretty impressed, and it looked great, and I think it would be, added to the play it when you're fuck around list, shit worth playing list. Now that you edited it.
I mean, I'd have to say I agree. It kind of reminds me of Dig Dug 2, and I played many levels of this, Josh. And I save stated my progress to come back later. So
yeah,
it's
that's a hell of a
kind of
testament,
addictive.
Yeah.
Kind of addictive. Yeah. What can I say? You said what you said. I don't know if there needs to be anything else said, but yeah, it's a fun game.
Yep. Agreed. Word. Counselor's Corner now, featuring maybe still the next side quest. Crystallis is in here. And I guess not. I guess that I wrote that prior to a certain decision that we've made via democracy. Proof democracy doesn't always work. Snake's Revenge. Snake's Revenge is also in here. There's some more Shadowgate, Boy and His Blob, Baseball Stars, and Wrath of the Black Manta. And nothing particularly interesting in any of the tips, but we do have a couple of mullet counselors on display here that need their shine. Mike Frazier has a full-bodied bangs mullet, and his sole hobby is medical research. And I don't know how that makes me feel inside, but it's something that's a little off-putting for sure. His highest game score is Finish Kid Cool in 1 hour and 48 minutes, which I personally find more unsettling than the medical research interest, to be honest with you. And he normalizes out a little with his favorite games, though. Those are Super Mario Bros. 3 and Metroid, and they're tied in his book. And those are both great games, and I agree with that. Hans Lowe has a banker mullet helmet, and he kills time by skiing, drawing, boating, traveling, bungee cord jumping, all banker things except maybe the drawing, I would say. Those are definitely banker activities. And highest game score is finishing Ninja Gaiden without looking at the screen, a very, very banker claim to make, I would say, a popped collar banker thing to say. And his favorite game is Ninja Gaiden 2, and I can support that, I suppose. Clearly a Ninja Gaiden fan. Yeah. Anything to add about the mullet, guys?
I mean, can we both agree that Jeff looks like Borat, like from the movie? That mustache, like he does. I feel like you say hi to him, and he just says, "Hello, I'm very nice."
Yeah,
and
that mustache has got to be a problem when eating,
right? And he has a full suit and tie. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Do you? Well, I mean, fucking Mike Frazier there above him is. Also, he didn't go with the tie, I suppose. So but he's in a suit too. I just have to, I look at this dude, and I mean, you got to again. We're in a different era where picture taking is more of an event. It's not, you know what I mean. We don't have fully functional cameras in our pockets at all time. People taking candid photos of everything at all times. So when you hear, I'm getting my photo taken for the gameplay counselor profiles of Nintendo Power, these motherfuckers spent some extra time that morning for sure. Everything here is more time was spent on it than is normal. You know what I mean? So, I'm not gonna roast him too bad for that. It's lame. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna roast him too bad because it is, your school picture you put on that button up too that you don't wear any other day, Jay. So. If you're gonna roast him, you gotta roast. I don't know. If you're gonna roast him, you gotta roast yourself.
I don't know. We'll let it go. We'll agree to disagree.
I
don't know. Ed Ridgway looks very laid back.
Yeah.
Collar unbuttoned.
Sure.
Like he's like, hey, this is cool. Nintendo Power. Let's go.
Sure. Well, this is a great infographic opportunity. We should mine out our school pictures, the both of us.
Oh man.
And we should do a percentage, the number of times that. And I guess there's some section. Maybe it could just be as simple as is there a collar or not, I suppose. But so we can make it some sort of objective, definitive thing. But it might be more fun to just qualify it as how many you dressed up for and how many you just kind of like took the cool approach, you know what I mean, for school pictures out of all 12 grades, you know, or 13 grades.
That's easy.
Throw kindergarten in here. Were you a dress up every time, or what are you saying?
I mean, I looked nice, but I definitely, if I ever had a collar, it was maybe like second grade or some random early grade that I don't remember. But like, I have no recollection, because my mom used to keep like a book of all my pictures. Sure. I have no recollection of any time of me wearing a collar outside of like being a senior, and that was at a specific event. So yeah. Okay. I think I'm good with this. And
I would guess. I think even my third grade one, I might have had. I think I had some like bib overalls on, maybe. I don't know. I want to say just off the cuff that my mom probably dressed me up, but once she died and I took control of this, my dad was definitely had zero input on this subject. He might not even. They probably didn't even know they were happening. Once I had control of it, I was definitely playing the cool card for sure. I was definitely dressing up. I know one year I had the Chicago Bulls shirt that was like, it was like a two-shirt kind of thing. It was like one of those shirts that had like, it looked like there was an undershirt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I had like a little bit of red that stuck out at the neck and on the sleeves, you know. I mean, I rocked that one year. I definitely had some bib overall action one time with one thing down. Yeah, like...
You had to have just the one strap then.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know why I wasn't... I mean, I guess they didn't make you change. Maybe that's probably why you just wore whatever you wore in gym class, which is insane. But I remember we were doing... I want to say it was fourth or fifth grade, and we were doing high jump in gym class. So, you know, the fucking bar across the thing.
Yeah.
And I was wearing those stupid fucking things with one thing hanging down, and I did it.
What?
And knocked the bar off with the thing hanging off my back. And it and however it happened, it ended up ripping my thumbnail off because the bar came off and like just something happened while I was falling and like ripped my fucking thumbnail half off because of those stupid fucking things. It hurt. I can still picture how it looked. It's like half of the nail hanging off my thumb, and it was so painful. And like the thing about that is that's hard as fuck. So you want to push it down and like fix it so it's not hitting things. Because it's hard on a ripped thumb, like that hurt too. Like fixing it hurt. So like it was an awful fucking terribly painful experience. But yeah, fucking bib overalls.
Never high jump in bib overalls.
Yeah, never high jump in bib overalls, particularly if you're gonna let one hang down. Just as life lessons go. Put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it. After that, we have a 5-banger plus fold-out map poster for Ultra Konami's Mission Impossible coming flying at us next. And this dropped in September 2. It's a top-down shooter based on a short-lived 1988 to 1990 TV series I knew not of, which is a continuation of a 1966 to 73 TV series that fared much better back in its day, but I also did not know of. And bunch of actors I don't really know, but there is one OG cast member, Peter Graves, that they brought back full-time for the short-lived 88 to 90 stint of the show. And they have a handful of guest stars where they brought OG cast members back just for an episode or two. But I watched about 3 minutes of the pilot, and it's exactly as horrible as I anticipated it would be. It was like this, you know, old TV's already like a little stilted, and you know, they didn't have the camera mobility that you have nowadays, and it's all a little kind of just a play happening in front of a camera on a tripod kind of feel to it, you know. But this was like, it was like this fucking guy going up into this penthouse party, and he's got some little gadget that he like shoots something across the room at this dude while he's drinking, and like it poisons him, and he starts acting all crazy and like he gets set on fire like in the fucking party. It was all so bad. But yeah,
that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, I could not stick with it anymore. Yeah, like I said, maybe 3 minutes of it. So not a show that is probably all that great. Evidenced by the fact it only lasted 2 seasons. But I did fire the game up also, and for starters, they did do a reasonably admirable job of having the opening cinematic in the game capture the feel and some of the aesthetic of the show's opening credit sequence. So that's bravo Konami for that, I think. And they, of course, did a bang-up job of digitizing the Mission Impossible music theme. You know, Konami ain't fucking around on the music tip. That's always the case. They did not deviate from that here. And there's a lot of shit going on in this game. Did you play this game?
Yeah, I really just I see Mission Impossible and I immediately turn my nose up. I'm just like,
we've talked about it.
So many movies.
This IP sucks. Yeah, this IP sucks.
And so I look at this and I'm just like, whatever. I'll just play it just to play it. And so initially I thought the game was whack, you know. And then I started understanding some of the things you can and can't do and how you navigate. So I started to get it, but it's just really not that fun. It's just meh. Like, I get it. Like, at first I was just like, I don't understand, this is dumb. But then once I got it, I was like, okay, I understand that I'm doing things, but I'm not really enjoying it. So
that is a great emotional flowchart that I think I matched exactly. Like, yeah, so yeah, you're a team of 3 dudes, each with a unique set of weaponry and I'm guessing skill set. And there's a weapons expert, there's a techie dude, there's a master of disguise. You can switch between them at will with the start button, kind of a la Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is nice, I think. And it's a straight top-down perspective you have, which is that's one of the weirdest parts about it, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, needless to say that it's a little fucking weird. And so, you know, everyone is essentially just a set of like a head and shoulders, or rather a head and a set of shoulders, you know, straight top down. And the first stage is the streets of Moscow, which is very fitting for the Cold War era, of course, or Cold War era. And so you start in the street and there's cars speeding down the road that will run your ass right over. So you're best to stay on the sidewalks. And there are people walking on everywhere, most of which are innocent bystanders that if you kill, your mission ends immediately. So you can't just start fucking spraying people, you know, which I like that. You know, I like the fact that, like, you know, you're infiltrating. You're supposed to be an operative in a civilian setting accomplishing a militaristic goal. So that's cool, you know, and I think that's a good way to capture that. The problem with this is some of them will just start attacking you out of nowhere, and there's no discernible difference in them that I could tell anyways. They will announce themselves very briefly with a speech bubble that says, "You!" in it prior to attacking. But with the top-down view, it's not easy to get an attack on them in the window before they knock some life off your meter. Because of that straight top-down thing, you only have, you know, you could only go in one of the 8 fucking analog directions. There's no, you know, you don't have a stick. So you can't hit little nuanced directions depending on where you're at passing them or where they're at in relation to you, you know? So it's kind of hard to avoid damage, and that sucks. And your life meter runs down, you lose the character, and are automatically switched to one of the other 2. And if all get captured, game over. So again, very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle-ish in that regard. And so that's like the overall deal. And there's buildings you can walk into, warehouses and bars and shit where you can talk to informants. One of them gave me a street pass that I'm sure has some narrative significance here in the first level. I think you got to use it to get through this alleyway area that I was trying to get through and getting fucking absolutely mowed down by a million different enemies, you know. And there's a password continue feature that allows you to enter a very simple 4-letter code in a fucking mainframe, and they've omitted some of the potentially confusing letters. No O because there's a Q, et cetera, et cetera. So they do a good job with that. And the fact that it's only 4 digits is, of course, good. No dumb shit there. And yeah, like exactly like you described. Like at first I was just like completely turned off because I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, you know? And like you kind of figure out, some of the functions. You're like, okay, I got to the end of the street. I got that street pass. Like now I can go through this alley here in the middle to the north. But I was still getting attacked, so I don't know what happens when you get up there. But you know, and you talk to people. That's obviously interesting. Gather information, kind of Metal Gear-ish in that regard. I like that. But just, something like, you know, you get the hang of it, like, okay, I see what's happened here. I understand what my objective is. Now I can kind of get into it. But, like, the action component of it is just not good enough to be fun. You know what I mean? Like, what they're guiding me through is interesting and fun, but the act of doing it sucks. And that's, 101. It's got the ad, just, Gary Kitchen fucking direct quote. The thing you're doing over and over, the act that you're pressing into the controller has to be fun first. That has to be the first thing. You build around that, but the first stop in game design is the activity, the repetition has to be, the gameplay loop has to be fun, or you're going to lose them, and they didn't do that here, despite
that's
shit
what
ton
we're here to do. I'm here to play
Right.
a game and have some fun. If I'm not, then I'm going to play something else.
yeah.
Like,
So yeah, they skipped the important part for this, I think. I mean, I still think it might be, again, like once you get the hang of that, I think there's a whole bunch of interesting shit going on that probably makes it, if you can get past that, or if you were a kid that has the nostalgia for it, like again, Lord Disciple Mac on the Facebook page, he said he plays this game once every couple of years all the way through. Like he has that much of an affinity for it, so.
wow.
There's something there that some people like. And it's, I think, if I recall correctly, it was just a kind of a high engagement. Like I posted the credit sequence on the Facebook page and Instagram and shit. And I think the engagement on it was pretty good. So there's people out there that like this game. So I think there's something there. But yeah, I think the startup cost is a lot as far as just the mechanics of the gameplay, unfortunately. From there, we have a 12-page Game Boy Palooza coming at us next, as promised on the cover, and they have a big focus on the TMNT game. Jab had both that and Snoopy's Magic Show puzzle game in here that I remember both pretty fondly, and he also had that Bo Jackson football and baseball cart they were previewing at the end, and the baseball game, and that was really good. Football was shitty as fuck, but the baseball game was good. Did you ever fuck with that?
Bo Jackson? No.
Yeah. Yeah, the baseball game was pretty good. Probably, I can't think of a baseball game I would say is better, actually, that I ever played on it. I don't think I ever really fucked with the Bases Loaded on there. Maybe that's better, because Bases Loaded is obviously one of the better NES games. But yeah, I played the shit out of that baseball game on Bo Jackson for sure. They wrapped this feature up with a full list of all 43 titles that had been released for the handheld through October 90. Collect them all. And their first Game Boy top 10. And in here, they have Tetris holding down number 1, Golf at 2, which is kind of wild to me, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at 3. We also have Double Dragon, Final Fantasy Legend, Revenge of the Gator, Gargoyle's Quest, Batman, Super Mario Land, Korth, rounding out the 10. And they're requesting that you send in your top 10 also. So I thought it would be fun to do our top 3 from this 43, of course. There's more games to come out later that we can deal with at a later date. But from this list, what would you peg as your top 3, Jay?
Mine are Super Mario Land, number 1. It's a great game. It's Mario. Like, you can't really flagship kind of title.
Yeah, I think no expounding is needed.
What are we gonna do? And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, the Game Boy one.
You like this one?
Quality. Yeah,
really?
I thought it was good. It's not like the underwater Ninja Turtles one. I kind of remember this one.
It was good because like the sprite, your sprite was so big relative to the environment that it was a little. I mean, yeah, I'd still play the shit out of it, but it's fucking Turtles. But it was a little goofy, and I don't know if I could get it into a top.
Yeah, it seemed more arcade-ish. Like, obviously not like the arcade, but closer to that type of feel, which was like Nirvana at the time versus the first one, on the NES. So
I can feel that.
Enjoyed that one, and then Tetris naturally. It's a great game.
Okay.
Like, I didn't get a ton of Game Boy games. I didn't have a ton of them, but like looking at this list, like that top 3 is easy.
Okay. Word. I also, Super Mario Land is also my top one. I agree with that.
Nice.
Number 2 for me is Motocross Maniacs. I've talked about this briefly before, I think.
Okay,
but it was a side view acrobatic dirt bike game that is not really the type of game I would normally dig, but there was something about the acrobatic nature of it that was really fun and interesting. A lot of power-ups, too, that you could get that kind of made it a little more... it's very Excite Bike. I mean, like I said, dirt bike, so of course it's like a Excite Bike, but the the side view of it very different, and then yes, the acrobatic component of it very added a whole layer of gameplay that a racing game normally wouldn't have in it. So yeah, that was one I played the shit. That was, again, I think of my Game Boy games in the order with which I can remember the way I obtained them, because I stored them in that order in my fucking little case. So like I know it was the fourth card I ever got. We go Tetris, Super Mario Land, Alleyway, Motocross Maniacs was number 4, and it was an early acquisition, and probably like obviously Super Mario Land, Tetris, great game. But it's just a puzzle game, and like you play it, you kill some time with it, but it's not a game you like immerse yourself in. It's just something you do.
Like I'm going back to that and just getting sucked in.
Right. Super Mario Land is obviously you play that, you beat it in the story, and that was I got that for Christmas. I had those 2 games, so that's all I played when I first got it. So I kind of got through that. Alleyway is kind of similar to Tetris in the sense that it's like it's an arcade style, old school style arcade game. You're just it's breaking the blocks, it's just kind of something you do. Motocross Maniacs was the first game after Mario that was like, this is like there's courses I have to beat this certain, it's like a game, it's a full game. So yeah, because I didn't have anything else, I spent so much time with that game. Really good memories of that one. And then Final Fantasy Legend, that first Final Fantasy being out here is key. That game's fucking great.
I was just gonna say that was like the first, like seeing this list, like knowing, having played the original Final Fantasy now and wanting to play others, I'm just kind of like, I wish I had had that game and could have appreciated it back then.
At that time, yeah. I would love, because you say that, and I'm sure we've mentioned it, but those games are not, they don't really exist in the Final Fantasy story. They kind of, I don't have the exact verbiage or the exact story, but it's almost like they licensed that name for, like, they're Secret of Mana games is what they are. It's like a completely different story world, and it's just very, very different. They're great, but like if you go into that expecting a Final Fantasy feel, I would, especially without the nostalgia component of it, I would love to hear your take on that. That would be an interesting thought experiment, because they feel very different, I think, than the normal NES Final Fantasy lineage, So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that after getting into it. Maybe Jab will talk us into it one day. We have the previews now, and we start with a 2-banger on Capcom's Little Nemo, The Dream Master, hit in September, so it's live, and this is based on a comic strip from the 1900s. So Capcom was really fucking strumming the topical pulp culture strings with this IP choice, I think. It's kind of like Dick Tracy we talked about, just like, what? But so they're
hold on, Josh. Don't you dare mention Little Nemo in the same vein as Dick Tracy.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about the games. I'm not talking about the games. I'm simply talking about the IP.
I know.
I agree there's a big gap between although I've said before, my Dick Tracy, kind of like we just talked about with the Mission Impossible game, like the action component of it is dog shit, but the game world and like what they try to do with the narrative and what you're trying to accomplish in the game is actually very interesting, and I would say positive things about Dick Tracy, the Nintendo game, in that regard. But anyhow, the way they describe this here in the mag is, are you tired of action games with evil, ugly aliens? Then take a break and enter the whimsical world of Slumberland and Little Nemo. Featuring the challenging but non-violent play, it's filled with, non-violent play is filled with fantastic animals and dreamy locations that will appeal to players of all ages. There's clearly a G-rated vibe to the game, and they are clearly pushing hard there with that non-violent verbiage. But I believe, like, I remember playing this as a kid, and I think that subconsciously, not actively, but subconsciously turned me off to it to some degree, because I couldn't get into this game as a kid. And like I'm almost certain that Jab and I rented it, and we couldn't get into it. But
dude,
yeah, my opinion of it here is not the same, Jay. You can fucking calm down, have a fucking have a hit on the pen and relax. So yeah, they go on to explain here that it is a Sunday comic Created by a dude named Winsor McKay, who is also one of the pioneers of animation, which is a pretty cool backstory to this property here. He started to transition from static cartoons that were wildly popular to animation in the 1910s after his kid brought home a flip book that sparked his intrigue towards moving pictures. And that's really fucking cool, I think, that he he worked animation, his kid brings this thing home and he's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a game changer, and that's a really cool realization, I think. Very, very cool backstory. Anyhow, action platformer for Capcom. It's probably actually fucking great, just by those two statistics alone, or those two attributes alone, rather. And it's an 80% of the power meter, so Nintendo Power certainly fucking thinks so as well. It's the highest in the mag. And yes, I fired it up, and the opening credit cinematic is fucking incredible. I had the one shot from it in my as my background in the last segment, and it's absolutely beautiful. Capcom is top shelf in this era, so you wouldn't think otherwise, but they nailed it here as well. The action platformer aspects of it are very strong. There's a really good effort towards storytelling. You have good Capcom controls. There's this candy throwing attack that you can subdue some of the creatures with, and it allows you to ride/transform into them and gain their abilities. So again, little Mega Man-y kind of vibe thing going on there. And yeah, man, it's good. Probably just a ton of fun to game up this video game, I think. So, nothing negative whatsoever to say about it, really, really, other than, again, them trying to baby that IP, but it's whatever, it's video games. I understand that's a requirement for some.
This game is absolutely a favorite of mine, all-time favorite of mine.
Did you played it as a kid? You have memories of it?
Oh yeah, as a kid, absolutely freaking loved this game. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of games that you mention them and from my childhood, and I'm absolutely yes, 100%. This is one of those where I played it and I was just it may have even been a rental. I don't know how, when I got it, but it was I didn't have any knowledge of it. I clearly didn't know it was based on a comic strip. It was kind of just all right, I have this game to play. But I played through it and I was like, oh, yes. So many fond memories, man. Just amazing game. Yeah. Amazing game. This is the type of game, if it was remastered today, and I think it may have been, I'm interested in playing it.
Word. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that functionality with the animals and stuff, very cool. And it's worth, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but yeah, gain their abilities. So yeah, I think the first one was the frog, I believe, and it immediately allows you to jump higher. And I tried. I don't think I was able to beat the first level. I got to some wall I couldn't jump over, so I was even kind of stonewalled a little bit in the gameplay. Even the first level, and I was still digging it. I turned it off with a positive vibe, even though I got stuck very early on. So yeah, I mean, I think I can totally buy the idea of playing that as a game episode.
Dude, there's definitely a level of, how am I going to figure out how to beat this part? But as a kid, we talk all the time about how I hated any kind of strategy. I just want to fight things and have fun and play puzzles. But this is one of those games where it wasn't as straightforward and I had to kind of think about it, but I still loved it. So can't say enough good things.
Word. Capcom. Next, we have Dragon Warrior 2 from Enix. It's another 2-pager. And this was released in September, which means we have officially dawdled long enough on embarking on our next RPG side quest that this game has entered the chat. Yeah, so there's some very swords and sorcery oil painting artwork headlining the feature here in the mag with an awesome table setting blurb that I want to read. For years after the Dragon Lord was defeated, peace ruled the land of Alefgard. Descendants of Erdrick reigned there and in the nearby lands of Moonbrook and Cannock. Few dreamed that another evil of the Dragon Lord's magnitude would rise again. But alas, this time of prosperity was not to last. Out of nowhere, the evil sorcerer Hargon struck, leveling the castle of Moonbrook and threatening to conquer the entire world. Hargon's enemies now roam the world, waylaying travelers and wreaking havoc. And Jay, waylaying is a good word.
It's a great word.
Yeah, now I intend to bring back into common usage. I
love it.
So, yeah, great copywriting here. They actually give it a paltry 72.5% on the power meter, and I'd like to speak with the fucking manager immediately about that. But the second page touches on a few of the broad strokes of the game. They have an illustration of the world map and highlight that in the original lands of Alefgard, or rather that the original lands of Alefgard are only a small part of the now larger map. And I fucking love this. It's like that it's a recognizable in the game as the full map in the first game. You know, I just can't believe more games hadn't thought to do it or didn't do it or whatever. I mean, I know there's technical limitations there, and that's part of it, but it's just an in-game nostalgia pluck that is so well done and so fucking amazing. And you know, they did like the only other predecessor to this, at least on the NES that I know of, and I didn't even realize it as a kid. I found this out a few years ago doing podcast shit, is that the Legend of Zelda's full map is in that south central part of the map of Hyrule and Adventures of Link. Yeah, like that Death Mountain and the graveyard and just some of the, I mean, you know, it's way scaled down, and like that's the thing, like it's more recognizable here in Dragon Warrior 2 than it was in Adventure of Link. So like I said, I didn't even know it, but in here there's no way to miss it. You know, when you hit this part of the game, because you don't start there, you start this other fucking part of the game. Right, so like when you stumble into this, similarly, if I recall correctly, that you hit this part of the map, you're like, oh my god, that's the fucking, like, you know, when you like, you're out adventuring and you see it and you're like, oh my god, that's the Dragon Lord's castle across the thing there in the little swamp, because it's so easily identifiable in the little swamp tiles, and then right across the water, right across the river is Tantagel, and it's just like, oh my god, oh holy fuck, that's incredible, you know. So just, I remember first seeing that and just being like absolutely floored that, you know, it would just be recognizable to you in the middle of gameplay. It was so fucking good. So that's really cool. I like that a lot. And they also touch on how you'll control 3 Erdrick descendants, not just the one, and battle parties of enemies that are not just solitary monsters. So, you know, you're battling parties of enemies now, and that's, needless to say, a completely different strategy breadth than you get in the first game, just battling single enemies. So that's very cool. And there's also a ship in here to take the high seas with. So they mentioned that, and that's of course cool too. It opens up the map and changes the way you're interacting with the world. You don't have to just stay on land. That's awesome. So maybe, just maybe, we'll make a side quest announcement later in this episode about a topic similar to this particular game. Did you? Yeah, so wait. Was there... You've turned it on. You said you've turned it on and like thought it, like threatened playing it, but had you seen anything prior to this feature that really talked about gameplay elements or anything?
No, I turned it on and just like started just to like turn it on and name my character and kind of start it up, but I just noticed like, wow, this looks very much like the last game.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So yeah, totally blind then. All right, yeah. So, I mean, I guess, well, then the question there, did reading this further incentivize? Had you read this before we had our discussion?
I did not. I had not read this.
Okay.
But I did. Well, I noticed the sizing thing, and I was just like, whoa. But I don't know. Like, to me, I wasn't sure if this was just saying, size-wise, this map is far bigger, and that's just there, but you're never going to go there type of thing. So, like, the idea of, like, oh, if I play this, like, I'll actually go to that area again is pretty cool. Or be able to see it. It's like, whoa, really? Yeah. You know, I just expect games to be separate like they are everywhere else. You know, this is the second game, but it's taking place at the next kingdom or someplace else. And that's... Right. You know. Yep,
no, yeah. Cool. It fully envelopes it as a story road. Yeah, really cool. I kind of hate even that you didn't have that. You're deprived of that realization in game, but what are you gonna do? Okay, so moving on. This issue is just a banger, drop after banger drop, as we now turn to another September release of Note Zippo, which is really just an extension of Rare developed Trade West released Solar Jetman. And this is a legacy title Jab had, so I have a really strong nostalgic tie to it and have picked it up in my childhood reclamation project. I have the cartridge now. And they give it a 72.5 on the power meter, and I think that's a fair assessment, as it can be, as I've mentioned many times when discussing it, quite punishing in the difficulty category, despite a lot of really, really cool shit in the gameplay going on. And it is an action space flight game across a bunch of different planets with all different gravitational effects to them, or gravitational environments, I guess, to them. And that's critical because your main focus in the game is hauling various upgrades and treasures back to your main spaceship with a smaller space salvaging tow vehicle. And you do have some shooting capability, and I wouldn't say it's irrelevant to the game, but if you are too dedicated to killing shit, you will fail in this game. It is not about battle, you know what I mean? It's about collecting these things and just getting them back to the spaceship so you can implement them into the game how they need to be implemented. And the enemies, and like that's the best way, I guess, that it manifests itself in the gameplay. The enemies in the levels don't respawn. So you can go through and clear out a track from this item you need to get back to the ship so you can do it cleanly without things attacking you. At least as far as the stationary things go. I think there might be shit flying around that spawns maybe still. I can't recall offhand. But you can definitely make an effort towards creating a safe space with which to operate as just a tow vehicle. And that's important because, some of the gravitational effects, because, each object has its own weight. So in turn, how much it affects your spaceship flight pattern or controls is influenced by the weight multiplied by the gravitational effects. Some have higher, some have lower. So like a really heavy thing in a really heavy gravity planet, like, you can be stuck moving so fucking slow because it's so heavy. You know what I mean? So if you haven't cleared out the area, you're fucked. And so you even have like you have this shield thing you can get. You get at the very first stage, I think you get it. You just like you hit whatever button turns it on, down or something, and it turns on your shield, but it's a force field, so you can't tow something with that on. So like, I don't know. It just adds a level of strategy to the action component of the game that is really interesting and not something I feel like I've seen at all otherwise, maybe ever, but particularly on the NES. So yeah, it's really interesting, really well done, and really fun. I think like they also, on top of just good gameplay, you get a really fun, I think, and creative vibe to the writing and the tone of the game. And like there's, it's like, it doesn't, you're kind of like this, I don't know, like your character's a little bumbly in nature, So like the fact that he's like this space junk salvager, it all weaves together in a pretty good story world that I really like and appreciate. And there's a slew, there's a whole bunch of, there's a whole economy to the game. You're salvaging, so you're earning money from a lot of these things, and like your ability to buy upgrades and progress in the game is gatekept by your ability to salvage items, and you can make choices about whether or not you want to deal with this particularly difficult to salvage item based on how much value it adds to your life monetarily. So there's like decision making to be had as far as your business, making business decisions. It's actually fucking, it's pretty cool. A nice economic simulator in that regard that I really like. And yeah, just a million different upgrades and shit that add to the customization of just the gameplay. So it's, yeah, I mean, so much more than just a flying space shmup that it might look like on the surface to someone. So a lot of really positive things to say. Like I said, I am going to have a real hard time not pushing us into playing this, if not here somewhere very soon. So be fair warned on that. How did you dabble with it at all?
So yes, I appreciate what they're doing here, but I'll pass. So it's to me, it's asteroids made into a platformer. That's what it feels like. Okay. So like, at this time in the timeline, if you give me a Nintendo in 1990 and gave me this game as well, I'd be like, sure. Like, I'm into it. This reminds me of asteroids, and you're making it more platformery and adding more to it. I'll take that. But like, otherwise, I don't know. That's hard. I mean, that's a hard sell. You're telling me there's a lot more stuff going on in there.
Yeah, cool. I was gonna ask, did you even tow anything back? Did you even try to tow anything back?
I don't think I towed anything.
Okay, so yeah,
I did not tow anything to a specific place. No.
So you didn't even play the game. You just flew around and shot shit.
I flew around and shot shit, trying to figure it out, and I was just like, man.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's not even. That's like I said. That's not even. I. It's a struggle to even call that Like that is such an ancillary part of the actual gameplay loop.
It looks so low budget. I was just like, dude, this is like the earliest gen kind of NES. I was just like, there's no way.
I don't know what that. I think especially like some of those cutscenes and stuff.
Maybe I didn't get to any cutscenes, so
okay.
I could
well, even the first one where you're just landing on the planet looks pretty good, But yeah, when you fly back out every time, and it shows the planet. Each planet has its own different artwork and stuff, and like all the items and shit have their own artwork when you get them, and once you drop them into the ship and you obtain them, there's like unique artwork for a lot of them and stuff. So there's a lot of good looking components to it. I mean, the base gameplay screen is, I suppose, a little rudimentary. I'll agree with that, but it's rare. I mean, Rare's gonna spend some time on the visual of it always. I think it's tough to ridicule their work in that capacity. Even Captain Skyhawk, probably one of the lesser Rare games we played, even that had some cool visuals to it. The main gameplay, not so much so, but.
All right. Not a game I expected to spend a lot of time talking about, but okay.
Yeah. It's good. I'll tell you, the fucking gameplay is good. Once you get into it, yeah, it's really challenging, man. Like and like a really because again, it's challenging, Batman challenging in that like because you know your gravity, you understand how much this thing weighs and how it either is less or more so than other things you have tried to tow back, and like you're trying to go, you're trying to drag it through sometimes these really constricted passageways below ground, and so it's just like there's so much variance to game objectives, and there's so much. Does it
get hurt if you hit, like if you're dragging it through a tunnel and you hit the top?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. If you don't have your shield on, that's the thing. So like. That's really a lot of the gameplay mechanic, I'd say. The real challenge is, yes, like you're moving. So like you have this, you thrust yourself, you need to get up to this certain part, but like, if it's this craggy fucking pathway you got to get through, you're going to hit something because you're in space. You have, it's fucking, there's nothing,
right.
I mean, you can go 180 degrees, thrust, and maybe stop yourself and go back the other way in time, but you might not. So really what the smart thing to do is turn your shield on. And then do that. So that absorbs some, if not all, of the damage you take. But when you do that, you're going to lose the tow. So you're going to have to now. So you want to wait to do that at the last possible second. So you tow the item as far as possible with that inertia that you picked up. Turn the shield on. Now, okay, got to reposition myself and kind of a lot of times you'll put yourself on the other side of the object from where you want to take it and get some inertia going before you turn your shield off and start the tow again, so you already have that inertia picked up and can tow it with the best efficiency, So yeah, there's just a lot of second to second, moment to moment strategy that is really, I think, intellectually stimulating once you get a grasp for it. And yeah, there's like I said, so much more going on than just shooting those fucking guns on the walls and shit, which is,
Fair enough.
Yeah. A lot going on. The last preview is a 3-banger on TMNT, the arcade game from Ultra, and this is thankfully not out until Christmas, or I don't know how we deal with all the fire in this issue.
So much.
Yes, there is, of course, the home port of the Quarter Munching arcade, or rather, this is the home port of the Quarter Munching arcade beat 'em up, and it's great. They're withholding the power meter verdict for the moment as well, just like NES Play Action, though. And I believe this is the only thing so far in this mag that's not released yet. And I took note of that here, which suggests to me the magazine is getting better at keeping up with and covering in a timely manner the release schedule of games, which is good. One, it's less work for me as the person administrating this podcast, and I like that. But also, too, just it just puts us better in line. We're always it takes less of the. Sometimes we talk about okay, we're not we get this game, we get a taste of it here. It is out. Technically, but we don't have the real coverage in the mag yet to work with as part of our gameplay episode. I mean, there's a little bit more. It's historically been a little bit more of a division of that stuff, and it's nice for that to all kind of start to mesh together a little better. And I think it makes for a better experience for us and for the podcast and the listeners. After these messages,
We'll be right back.
So I'm flying around the planet Mexamorph, minding my own business when this flexi snake gets on my tail. I say, hey, buddy, I'm just trying to do a job here. Next thing I know, he slams my pod into a piston bumper, and I'm toast. Now I gotta fly this jetpack to the mothership and get a new pod. Then I gotta keep searching for this golden warp ship thing scattered over like 12 planets. Give me a break. What kind of sicko thought this came up? I gotta go.
Solar Jetman, new from Trade West. No one said it was going to be easy.
That is a 1990 U.S. market commercial for Solar Jetman. Is the quintessential non-union commercial actor being eccentric, direct to camera, in a spacesuit in front of a static space backdrop. It's the absolute least expensive way to make a commercial for this video game, and I love it.
Right. A one shot, direct to camera. This is what we got. We're good.
30 seconds, go. A half dozen fall favorite titles coming at us in the new games now available here. We start with Tengen's Gauntlet 2. It's a 4-player enabled joint, and that is really fucking cool. Dungeon crawling real time with 3 buddies in 1990. That would have been living in the fucking future. And yeah, should we start living in the past and try to organize 4-player NES sessions with other Lord's disciples, Jay? Should we do that?
Can you imagine? That would actually be cool. I've done this 2-player, and it's fun. But obviously, that's different. I'm sitting next to my little brother in the bedroom, so
right.
But it could be fun. I mean, this was definitely a jam back in the day.
Yeah,
not easy, but fun.
No, definitely not easy. Yeah, definitely not easy. Yeah, that would be. We should try to. That's an interesting parsec idea.
But I got to be the wizard, though. I'm calling wizard.
Yeah, I don't think I have an affinity, and I can probably the Valkyrie maybe. Probably the Valkyrie is my. I want a little magic aptitude. I don't want to be a tank. I never want to be a tank. I've actually started playing. I'm so tapped out on assassin play in Demio that I've started using the magician.
Really?
Just to mix it up, yeah.
You got to switch it up, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I do miss it. And actually, dude, I played the other night, just a couple nights ago, as the assassin for the first time in a while, and they fucking rebalanced it, man. They changed it so you can't. And this is why part of playing the assassin, because I could play the assassin alone the way it used to be, because you could yes, you have that cooldown turn for your stealth, and that hasn't changed in theory. Once your stealth runs out, you have to spend a turn before you can stealth again.
Right.
But the way it used to be, if you initiated the coming out of stealth by attacking, that counted as your cooldown turn. So the next turn you could stealth again.
So you could just stay in stealth, basically.
Well, you come out and you spend a turn with the monsters being able to attack you. But yeah, now if you come out on your own, you spend essentially 2 turns before you can stealth again. And the first time that happened to me, I was like, what the And I'm playing with people who have probably been playing constantly. They have what do you mean? Of course. That could have happened a month ago. I barely played, So I was like, I caught myself. I was like, I gotta just shut up. I'm being a whiny bitch right now. Because the first time it happened, I'm like, did I forget? No, that's not, that's fucked up. That doesn't seem right. And it happened a couple of times. No, that's different, man. That's fucking changed. I was like, fuck. That's a big difference in the effectiveness of that character, or just the way you use them, period. Not even effectiveness, just sustainability with that character is all, because you're always off doing your own thing. So if you get in a room with a bunch of shit and you're not stealth, you're fucked, buddy. So yeah.
Less cowboy shit, Josh.
Yeah, a whole lot. Yeah,
shit. Stay with the groove.
It does.
Stay with the groove.
Yeah, it does, and that's exactly it. 100%. I immediately started staying with the group a little bit more.
Dude,
so
I appreciate that. I didn't like when the assassin always just dip out and go do your thing. I'm a magician. I have no armor whatsoever. Help me out here. Let's stay together.
Yeah, and that is some people's bitch about that character for sure. So I mean, it probably overall makes for a better experience, but it was definitely a very very jarring change for an assassin-minded player for sure. Anyhow, this dropped in September, so it is 2 live. So go forth, courageous warriors, as they instruct in the bottom corner here. And they give it a 72.5% on the power meter. I can get on board with that assessment. I agree with that grading. Next, we have the aforementioned Bandai's Dick Tracy. Yeah, they do have the power meter now at 60%, and I bet Disney is still litigating against them about that.
Right?
Yeah.
All kind of like shake hands and backhanded agreements like, yo, this is just now we talked about Jim.
Yeah, 60%. Come on, we're Disney. We'll bury you in the backyard. Don't make me take your lunch money. Do better than that. So next we have, after that, Taxan's Low G-Man. It's now live with a September release, and that's up next. They give this a 67.5% on the power meter, which is a bit disparaging, but we press on with hope and optimism. And I fired it up. Did you fuck with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's lots of high jumping, early gen generic platformer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got a lot of Strider vibes from the copy, though no mention of diskettes or mainframes, so that bummed me out.
Yeah.
But it's set in 2284, and I'm thinking that they certainly were possible, so I can't imagine that they weren't.
They've evolved past that. They have much better storage mechanisms.
Yeah, storage, yeah. Well, fuck, Strider was in the future too, and you know that's your logic. If you don't think you don't need diskettes just because it's the future, not in 1990. The future in 1990, no, there's diskettes, bro. There's no way for there not to be diskettes.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. No matter what is happening, you got to put diskette in that.
Yeah. And it's gonna look like that too. It's gonna look like that.
Yeah.
Diskette, yeah. It's not changed. That's great. So there's some cool looking cinematics that are visible in the screenshots. I'm like, okay, I'm optimistic there. They highlight weapon equipment upgrades and a handful of actual vehicles that you can assume control over after you frag their operators. Dig that. That's borderline Nemo vibes that we just talked about. And there is clearly a gravitational manipulation capability. Your character has to mix up what otherwise appears to be, yes, a side-scrolling action platformer like many others. So, there were some things there. I was like, okay, there could be a game here. And I fired it up, and the opening cinematic is reasonably good pixel art, but it's such a disjointed series of images and text that I was almost laughing at it. Like I couldn't,
Yeah, I was like, come on, man.
It's like nothing to do with each other. And
Immediate bad first impression.
Yeah.
Immediate.
So the game is, I think it's kind of cool, I think. Like the controls are a little wonky and not perfectly intuitive, but even like the starting attack capabilities were interesting and different. Like your ranged attack is an electromagnetic gun that freezes enemies that are most, if not all, robotic in nature. So, you have like this control over the environment that's like a non-lethal manipulation tactic, and it doesn't kill them. So you have an up and down thrust lance attack that is best deployed after you freeze the enemy. So, you freeze them, and then you can do it. It reminded me a lot of the Adventures of Link, up thrust and down thrust, same kind of vibe. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a control thing going on that kind of like Strider, actually, funny enough, where you just I think you got to spend some time with it to get comfortable with it, because I was not able to deploy that down thrust as a means by which to kill. Like the amount of time, I was unable to reliably deploy it in the amount of time that the freeze attack gave me. So there's something going on there that I need to learn. Either that or it's just a bad game, one or the other.
That's part of why I deemed it an early gen generic platformer. I was like, it's got some kinks to work out. So
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you cop a vehicle pretty early, so you get a taste of that, and it changed my jump capability and weapon set. So that was cool. Like I thought that implemented well for a very brief play that I gave it. So I don't know. I guess I could probably be talked into playing this game if it were one that you were felt a little stronger about. But it
interesting.
Does not sound like you. Does not sound like you are.
Yeah, I was not going to go to bat for it.
Yeah. From there, we move to Acclaim's valiant attempt at a first-person RPG, Swords and Serpents, and they give it a 72.5 on the power meter, and that is not fucking true.
I was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, that is just not fucking true. It's a great idea, but in implementation, application, not great game. And from there, we get a new Light Zapper game out from Nintendo of America. It's called Barker Bill's Trick Shooting. And they give it a 72.5% on the power meter also, which seems crazy, but I've never fucked with it, so what do I know? If you're a Barker Bill stan, please do write in and sell us on what we're missing out on, because we can't play light gun games with the setup we have here. And even if I were to order the cart, I don't have the CRT necessary to embrace it. So I just got to let that one go, and it self-disqualifies it from our exploration of history here, unfortunately. The last one is Bandai's Frankenstein, which was actually released with the title tack-on of The Monster Returns. And this is a side-scrolling action game where you sadly are not controlling Frankenstein, but rather some schmuck that's, you guessed it, trying to get his objectified female back from the monster. And they give it a 70%, so it's by no means a pass reco by Nintendo. And I'd never even heard of it, so away we go. The title screen and epilogue cinematics have amazing pixel art, and though they do errantly suggest Frankenstein is capable of a fluent speech, he is not in this world of lore, and that's a little weird that he talks, you know. But I do like the music, and tried it with some optimism, but the game absolutely fucking sucks. It's like really stiff, bad jumping and attack controls. And the enemies just kind of look like a random assortment of pixels. They're not really identifiable as things that would be in the story world. You know what I mean?
On this game, I just want to lean into the microphone very slowly and dramatically and look around the room. No, thank you.
Yeah, which is why it's at the very back end of this section, probably. I guess if they put it at the back end of the next section, video shorts, that would be a real, you know, don't bother with this, which they basically tell you what some of these games we're about to get to. But yes, we move into video shorts now, and there's a whole lot of new release jams in here. We start with Kimco Seika, and they have a Bug Bunny licensing fucking jamboree first, and it hit in September. It's a celebration of Bugs' 50th birthday. So happy, Bugs Bunny. This is an action platformer with some mini games, it looks to be, and they tag it with a 67.5% on the power meter. I tried it. I suppose it's not the biggest piece of shit on the NES in this genre, but I sure as hell don't need to play it now or in 1990. It's just not enough going on there.
Yep, agreed.
Very stock action platformer shit.
Yeah, not terrible though. I was like, if you forced me to play this back then, I'd be like, you know, I'm playing.
Yeah, if you brought it home and I wasn't in the middle of some shit on with my own carts, like, yeah, maybe I'll fuck with it a little bit.
But not going back to it. No,
yeah.
No thanks.
After that is Mindscape's Mad Max. It's another September release, and this is based on the OG Mel Gibson movie star Launchpad film. And I've tried to watch this movie. It's fucking really weird, and I couldn't stick with it. Do you have any love for the film at all?
No, not at all. Yeah. I've fallen asleep when I was on the old one, on the new. Like, it just...
I don't like the new one either. Yeah, I don't like the new one either. Yep. And that was like that one, like, I mean, that one got... I thought it was weird how that one got, like, revered. I don't know. It was fucking weird to me how much love it got.
Even this game, like, I'm like driving, like, it just seems like a terrible driving game, like a game.
The game, yeah.
Just like, come on.
I mean, they give it a 55%. Like, that's horrific for, I mean, they do go a little lower. There's a title we're going to get to that's a little lower than that, but it's pretty bottom of the barrel as far as Nintendo judgment goes. So, you know, even they tell you it's, you know, it's not very good. They even have some copying here that I thought was very apropos. It is not as much an adventure through the devastated world as it is a test of driving combat skills in a closed area. So it's just a combat racer, and it's, you know, it's in a story world that should be cool to explore. That's what they're saying there. Like, you see this game, this story IP, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have a narrative where I'm having to deal with this really interesting post-apocalyptic world where gas is at such a premium that or crude oil is at such a premium that like people are killing themselves, killing each other over it, and you know there's a lot of shit to go with that. But this doesn't explore really any of that. I don't think. Yeah.
Not that at all.
I did play it like a good little podcaster though, and yeah, it's there is a like that opening credit shit slideshow. It's not really a cinematic, but it's a slideshow. Paints the bummer of a story world pretty admirably. Like I said, I tried to watch the movie and like I couldn't get into enough to really put me emotionally in the world, and I thought the slideshow did a better job than the movie did of like, you know, how fucking depressing of a place it would be to
this
exist.
Is where we're at.
Yeah, but I think it was better looking than I expected, but yeah, the gameplay is very meh. You know, just fucking.
I wanted to like it. Like I've tried, like even with the movies, like I've tried to come back and be like, all right, it's popular. Like, am I just missing something? You know?
Right. Yeah. Yep. I concur. LJ fucking N drops some more licensed schlock on us in September with Back to the Future Part 2 and 3. And I think we first have to address the title of this game. And I'm wondering, are they trolling us with a self-awareness of the shittiness of bad Hollywood sequels with that Part 2 and 3 thing at the end? Or are they Russell Wilson enough to make that choice in earnest?
I think they made that choice. Like, I don't... But it's weird. Like, it's like... It's like they were just trying to take it... Like, they knew they couldn't just make a game based off of one of them. I don't know. It's just an odd thing.
Well, they did that with the first one.
Choice.
I mean, why couldn't they make a first one? I mean, yeah. I mean, even if you want to combine the stories, I guess. I mean, yeah. The only I think possible answer is that they are just trying to exploit that IP for all they can by saying it's both movies. If you like either movie, you'll like this game. You know,
because the third one kind of sucked. Like, I was glad they made a third one, but like compared to the other two, I was like, meh. But like, if you add this in a game, it's like, oh, do I get to play both movies? I guess that's more attractive, you know.
I don't think it's funny you say that. I was going to ask you. Like, I can't say I've ever even for sure seen more than a couple minutes of either of those sequels.
What?
I know.
What? Wait a minute. You have not. Wait, hold on. I think I misunderstood what you're saying. You have seen Back to the Future 2 several times, I assume.
I don't think I've ever watched more than a couple minutes of either one of them. I know the third one happens with that cowboy train shit. I remember that one was on. Yeah. I know I tried to watch that one more because that movie came out and was on HBO in that window in high school I've talked about before, where I first got the satellite dish and I had those movies played in a loop on HBO, so it was on constantly. So I tried to watch it, but I fucking hated it. I recall I did not like it. And the second one, I just don't think.
No. Oh, this is like The Wizard for me. Like, I'm just like, we're like, next time you come to Seattle, we're just gonna get movies.
Sit down and watch it. Like the Future 2.
I feel like this is one of those movies that I have strong nostalgia feelings for. Like, it was futuristic. It was really interesting.
Well, this is the one with the it's the almanac. It's the almanac deal, right?
Yeah, where they actually go to the future. Whereas the first one they went back, and this one they went to the future, and so it was really cool. And obviously,
I probably now that I can
hoverboards.
I remember the hoverboard shit. I remember I have seen it, because I can remember the scene where he finds the almanac in the trash can or puts it in the trash can or something like that. I can remember that scene. I remember the hoverboard shit out in like the mall or courtyard or whatever that was.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember all that shit.
Like, do you remember the Pizza Hut scene? Like a pizza the futuristic pizza like expanding?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh man. It's funny too. I think about this because like my dad worked at Pizza Hut at the time, and there was like promotional stuff. There was like some I think the marketing, I still remember to this day, was like radical Back to the Future 2 neon like sunglasses.
I kind of remember those, yeah. I kind of remember those, yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. But no, I loved the second movie. The second movie was freaking great to me. It was also one of those things where it was like, wow, could the future really be like that type of moment? You know what I mean? With a movie that I loved anyway. So, yeah. I would have been much more interested in this game itself. But like,
well, they talk about that is kind of the narrative. I mean, again, I didn't play enough to see where it goes as far as the third movie goes. But like the whole setup, and that's the artwork behind me. The whole setup is the shit about Biff and the Almanac for sure. I'm surprised that didn't jar the memory of the movie. But yeah, the whole setup at the beginning of the game is that the copy they put in here sounds tedious and laborious too. Even they say he'll enter the second part of the game, which takes place in 1885. There, he will find more items to pick up and more enemies to beat. Ho hum, it's just like that's the whole game. Is like you just like it's a collectathon and some enemies to kill, and like there's just no energy to it. There's no, I don't know. There's no.
Well, even the beginning of the copy, it says LJN is hoping that if you enjoyed the hot Back to the Future movie series, that you'll find this movie a winner. Like,
right.
Did you play this? Like, I just have to say,
I played that at the very beginning of it was terrible.
It is
terrible.
this game is so bad. Like, it made me turn it off and look it up to see if it was real or if this was some like kind of fan-made weird
bullshit.
Like, why were there spiky turtles in it, a la Mario Brothers? Like, what are we talking about? There was no spiky turtles in Back to the Future.
Well, this is
any movie.
This is exactly. I told you. I mean, I have the first one, the first LJN Back to the Future game. Like, I've talked about how like, you know, it's like almost to X-Men level, like betrayal, you know, and like the trauma of playing it as a child is like deeply rooted and strong even to this day. Like the emotional reaction I get thinking about it is very upsetting. So yeah, like the first one also terrible. Yeah, like I said, it had nothing to do other than that picture being your timer, which was cool. Yeah. But like the actual gameplay and like the map, like yes, you did kind of go around Hills, whatever the name of that town is, Hillville or whatever the fuck it is, and like the end has the DeLorean thing. I never got there because the game's fucking impossible. But like, you know, there is stuff in there that is rooted in the IP. But like the early game in stage gameplay has nothing to do with Back to the Future. You're just like running around the streets and you're dealing with like bees and like movers carrying a piece of glass that you can't run into the middle of because it's glass, and like it's just like bees. I remember so many fucking bees. Like what the fuck is with the bees, man? Like fuck off with the bees. Like nothing to do with the movie in the game. So it's not even. I mean, I guess my point being my expectation of this sequel would be exactly that. That would just be more of that shit, you know.
Dude,
so
spiky turtles.
Yeah,
I mean, so just wrong. No thought at all. They're just like, what works? Just put it in there. Like, yeah. But sir, like this is a staple of just put it in there. Just put it in there. It's fine. They'll love it. They'll love the spiky turtle shells. Like no.
I wrote down. So yeah, they give it a 65% on the power meter, which I was ready to call bullshit immediately when I saw that.
Absolute bull.
Right. Yeah. So I fired it up and like my first thought like, holy shit! I hate the jump and movement physics in this video game. They're so bad, man. The fucking jumping is so bad and so slippery and so bad, so bad. I mean, yeah, there was some cool the pixel art, like I said, behind me, the DeLorean pixel art in the opening sequence. That was all kind of fun, and I enjoyed it. Cool. But the actual gameplay,
playing it, no,
yeah, terrible. Hudson Soft chucked some flying shmup shit us after that with Starship Hector, and listen to this copy. Basic flying and firing skills will make you a master of this shoot and steer action game from Hudson. Command your starship through a series of enemy-packed areas and take on the dangers of a strange land. On the way, you'll pick up special life replenishing items if you fire at the right targets. And that could describe any flying space shmup video game in history. It's just like so lazy on both the game design, the marketing, and the review front across the board.
Fire at the right target.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that could apply to any shooter ever. Yeah, it's just so fucking bad. And they give it a 67.5 on the power meter. Like, that's way too high. Like,
counterpoint, although the copy is very basic, I will say playing this, it is a really fun, as somebody who enjoys flying shooters, Xevious style flying, like vertical flying shooter of that time. Very.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like
very.
I didn't look it up beforehand, but like the second I turned it on, and I saw the 87 copyright and the abysmal graphics, like it's clear. It's one of those games that's clearly a port of an arcade game from yesteryear, like fucking 1984 or something, and they did very little to nothing to bring it to the NES. Almost a decade later, you know, it's just so glaringly apparent that I don't know how you could possibly, in the sea of games available of this ilk on the system, how you could even begin to want to play this one is beyond me.
Well, they had I was playing still, obviously, the Atari 7800 at this time. And like I said, Xevious was a game that was really fun, but it was like, it looked like this. Like, it looked just like this. Except I don't think I had to guess which targets to hit, so that's the only big change. But otherwise, like very similar graphics of that time. So I could see again. I mean, 1987 is a little earlier, though. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely even earlier, perhaps. But otherwise, I
feel
years like
earlier.
Yeah. I could feel like I could see how you get stuck playing this game because you have it and make fun out of it. Then, not even in 1990, probably though. You're probably like, Mom, okay, you know.
On the NES, man, I just don't see it. It's a new game coming out. I just don't see how. Like, I mean, like,
I don't know. I have such strong affinity for Xevious, I still had fun. But I could see how anybody else is still like, yeah, I don't want to touch it.
I feel like it's there's no way to find this out. But I mean, like, what they sell like 17 of those? Like, I mean, how did anyone buy those? Like 17 errant purchases that were probably returned. Heavy chargebacks.
Oh, I'm sure. If the average NES title was like $40, and this one was coming in at like $19.99, and then at Christmas time,
there were no NES games selling for that low. The lowest it could have been was in the mid 30s, man. And like that is just,
I don't know, man. A 3-year-old one, especially if it, I don't know. Maybe you're right.
But that's the thing, though. It's not 3 years old on the NES front. It's 3 years. The 1987 copyright is the copyright of the arcade game. This game just came out in fucking September. Yeah, it's not.
Track previous statement.
Yeah, it's not new to the system. It's new to the system. It's not new as an arcade game at all. Yeah, not good. The last conversation-worthy one here is LJN's appropriately October drop of Nightmare on Elm Street. We've talked about it in the IP already, so moving on. Not a good game. Cool IP, though. NES Journal comes at us next, and holy fucking Moses, is this a bomb drop? Super Famicom announced in Japan is the headline, and let the 16-bit wars begin.
It's official.
Yeah. They talk a bunch of the specs. Love the screen res of 512 by 448 being mind blowing for them. That's incredible. And a whopping 64 by 64 sprite size max. And they also tease the announced games. Super Mario World. They summate each one of these with a little tiny parenthetical. Mario rides a dinosaur and gains even more power-ups, which kind of sounds like that description of that fucking space game a moment ago. But, it's Nintendo. We'll give them a pass. Flight Club. This is a super flight sim. And then F-Zero, a hot racing game. And they also tease a new Legend of Zelda title coming down the pipe the following year. The one with Chris Hairston or whatever his name is, Secret Room in it. And it is releasing wide in Japan for Christmas. They don't have any dates for the U.S. yet. Spoiler alert, it is August 23rd of 91, so it's a little less than a year away. So close, but yet so far. AJ?
Dude, I'd be looking at these screenshots like mouth watering over Super Mario World. Like, look at it.
It'll be interesting. It'll make this podcast very interesting once we get there for sure. We'll change the spectrum of what we're doing completely. The celebrity profile is on a 17-year-old Will Wheaton of Stand By Me and Star Trek, The Next Generation fame. I asked Jab for his commentary on his role in Star Trek, seeing as Jab errantly believes it is the greatest TV show ever. And he reports that much of the community hates this character, but Jab doesn't find him that awful. And that's the brass tacks from Jab on this particular individual and his character on the show. So he's a big hockey kid, an LA Kings fan, and Blades of Steel is his cited go-to game here. Easily one of the more organic NES game tie-ins for this feature to date. We've talked before how it feels very forced. Sarah Gilbert's, I forget what it was, but I remember Sarah Gilbert's being very forced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so he talks a lot about radio and doing guest DJ spots at stations in LA. So, so I said he's 17 already. So he's a kid relatively early in his career. And he talks a lot about doing radio and guest DJ spots at stations in LA, as well as polishing his skill set at UCLA when he starts there later in the year. And that's really interesting if you look at his career arc, because he mostly does voice work these days, and he's absolutely fucking killing it on that front. So while you don't see his face very often anymore, I'm sure he's doing just fine on the financial front. But it's cool to see, and it was cool to me to see that, like, he had that interest that he could express at 17, and it has absolutely steered his career and where he's went from there, so many years down the line. So that's really cool. Stand By Me, that's a fantastic film. Do you have anything?
Oh,
does
yeah.
that
movie.
mean?
I mean,
yeah.
Who doesn't like that movie?
Right, yeah. Very good.
Like, if you were alive at the time, yeah. Like,
Yep.
Of course.
Very good. Very, very good. A page of merch being pitched at us after that. Some dumb Mario branded shit, a toothbrush, a phone, a musical book. It's a book, but it has a built-in xylophone. So, I mean, that's out of the three. out of them, that's probably the most interesting one, I suppose. But they also have Game Boy carrying case offerings here that jumped out to me a bit. They had that soft shell Dynasound one. or rather, I had that soft shell Dinosaur one, and Jab had the small hard shell newbie one. So those were the cases we had. Did you have any of these or no?
I feel like I had like the Dynasound organizer or something similar to that, like the bigger one.
The soft shell one or the
soft sided bag. The first one.
Yeah, that's the one I had. That's the one I had. Yeah, that's the one. When I talk about picturing the games being stored in the order I got them, that's like Tetris is on top in the top left corner. Super Mario went beneath it because they held 2 games each on those in the case, anyways. And yeah, that's absolutely the one I had for sure. It was fantastic because I had the battery pack, and that was clutch. Being able to carry that in that bag, you know, or AC adapter, I guess, not the battery pack. Some BS about the Super Mario Bros. 3 cartoon and Maniac Mansion TV shows gets us to Pack Watch. And first up here is a software-hardware bundle called the Miracle Piano Teaching System that was shown at the Summer CES from Mindscape and the Software Toolworks. And the mid-eye keyboard hardware has built-in stereo speakers, so all piano audio is played through those, not the game system, not through the TV. And the keyboard can operate on its own. So the software is just for instructional purposes and also offers a metronome, like on the TV while you're playing. So, you know, I didn't even know this existed, but the MSRP is $300, they say, but the wiki says $500. Either way, like, yeah, very few.
Maybe they wanted it to be $300, and it was like, nah, we gotta raise that up,
I suppose. But yeah, either way, I did not even know that existed. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just not. I don't know. It's not. I think it's an out of touch understanding of your target market as far or your user base, I guess, maybe better put. You know, like I just don't think there were enough people looking to refine their piano playing skills via their NES. You know what I mean? And they did. This had like also a PC release that I think did a little better, but yeah, the NES version just fucking absolutely nothing. FCI's next Ultimate installment, Quest of the Avatar, is in here. And get jazzed, Jay! They say it's an improvement on Exodus, so I'm assuming you... I'm assuming you've marked this in your calendar as far as side quest interest goes.
The amount of time that I spent thinking about like what type of witty comeback I could have to any discussion of Ultima, it was too much, so I just ended on the ha. That's all I can really say about anything Ultima related.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Also talking about a game from Arcadia Systems called The Adventures of Robin Hood, and it appears to be an RPG in nature that really perked my ears up, so I started digging around for this, and I couldn't find anything about it for the NES, so I think this was never made for the console. It did have a PC release, looked kind of interesting, but that's not what we're talking about for this podcast. Notable IP adaptions also mentioned here. We have Bill and Ted, we have Indiana Jones, and then Dragon's Lair. So those are all IPs coming to the NES in the near future. The next issue teases the Final Fantasy Strategy Guide coming in October, and then features on Dr. Mario, Solar Jetman, and Little Nemo in issue 18. So maybe that's an argument for me backing off Solar Jetman a little this issue. It's foreshadowing. Howie's letter deals in how much fun he had at the PowerFest tour and how excited he is for the televised finals in December at Universal Studios in Orlando. And there's also some hype for the Final Fantasy Treasure Quest, and he reveals he's just finished his master's degree. And it made me like kind of just think about it for a second. I forgot how young this dude was when he was living this Nintendo Power stardom, you know? Like it must have just been such a wild, surreal experience for a guy that more than likely would have just had the nerdiest, most normal life ever if he hadn't gotten that warehouse job at 22, you know? Like, the master's ended up being an MBA from the University of Washington. So a little fucking footnote, I guess. But yeah, very wild life for a early 20s dude to be living, you know?
Sign me up.
Yeah, for sure. Couldn't find any video of that actual PowerFest broadcast, but I was able to find the promo VHS video they sent out to contestants. That will be in the show notes. It is absolutely worth a fucking watch, for sure. It's like such bad industrial production value kind of deal, you know, for the early 90s. It's exactly what you would expect it to be. Fun little watch, like a 5-minute deal, I think. And Player's Poll is the final thing in here, and it's an Ultima Quest of the Avatar Bonanza. Jay, the grand prize is a Halloween trip through the most elaborate haunted house in the U.S. of A., Britannia Mansion. And, I'm looking at this, knowing what I know about fucking Richie here, and it sent me down a serious history rabbit hole. The Britannia Manor is old Richie Garriott's former private residence, i.e. actual fucking castle in West Austin, Texas. Some notable features of it and the nearby adjacent ranch. It has a 360-degree observatory, the place
like
that
I want to look at stars and
right,
stuff.
yes, like an astronomer's laboratory, basically, a professional astronomer's laboratory. He has one of these on his property. It has a 300-seat outdoor replica of the Shakespeare Globe Theatre in London, as well as a patronage of the accompanying renowned Elizabethan performance troupe, the Baron's Men. So he not only had the facility on his property, but he funded the ongoing year-round production of Shakespearean performances at said venue. And
that's crazy.
Yes, there is a haunted forest that is probably where this trip you took you through, and there's a lighthouse on it's like on a fucking. Austin is kind of landlocked, but there's like a lake there. There's some water and rivers going through Austin, so it's on one of that area, I guess. And he has a fucking lighthouse that. Okay. So you get a tour of Origin Systems, which is Garriott's company that's also based in Austin, Texas, and then you get to meet the man himself and ask him why he's such a bastard. So pretty fucking cool contest for sure, and I'm sure for a kid, just absolutely mind-blowing experience. Second prize is a set of a few of FCI's shitty NES games. The Ultima being one of them, but what's the fucking what's the one that the one guy tried to get us to play? Deadly Towers, I think, is one of them.
Oh my god!
Yeah, there's another. Yeah, just some really bad fucking games. So that's not the best prize in the universe, but I guess free NES games are always kind of cool. And then third prize is, of course, Nintendo Power T-shirts. So that is Nintendo Power issue 16.
That's the TMNT arcade soundtrack, the character select theme, rather. Pure hotness, of course. Bringing us into the nominations, which I believe you're first, Josh.
That's good, actually, because I actually have something I'm going to add, not a segment, but a feature to this segment of the show. But what did we say earlier about that fucking character select theme? Yeah, you're fucking dead inside if that song doesn't incite something in you emotionally. You're dead inside. Or
yes.
Either that or it just didn't exist during that time of the world, one or the other, maybe both. So it occurred to me that there's a fun infographic opportunity with issues of Nintendo Power with these power meters, and maybe actually GamePro. Does GamePro have some sort of meter? Yeah, they have the scores. So whatever. I can do this for, I think, probably all the issues. I'm sure they all have little rating systems. So I'll be able to do. I'm going to start doing an aggregate of the issues power meters. Or rating systems, whatever. So we can compare. I'm gonna go back and do them all too. So I have the full data of every issue, but it's not that much work and. Not like I have a real life or anything. So basically an aggregate of all the power meters for all the games in the issue, so we can kind of compare eras, I suppose, at least from the perspective of the magazine, of course. So the aggregate power meter of this particular issue is 64.11%. So that is the power pool from which we are making these decisions. This particular issue. So that's how it ties into this segment, I felt.
It doesn't feel as strong. Doesn't feel as strong to me. It feels like
we're dragged down by those, the fucking, there was a couple, there's actually, what was the lowest? The lowest was Rally Bike, and that was a 46, I think.
Terrible.
Yeah, 46%, 46 or something. So we have some low ones dragging down the 80% Little Nemo types. There's a lot of 72s and shit in there, so it's not like we have nothing. I already said, actually, I think this is one of the stronger pools of games.
Yeah, there was actually a lot of good stuff in here, so it's surprising that the meter. Feels like the meter should be higher. You know what I mean?
Fucking, it's like everything else in the world, Jay. You have to fucking the bottom of the barrel dragging everyone else down. Okay, so my nominations from this issue, and I wasn't even able to do 3. I could only wean it down to 4. So I have Ninja Gaiden 2. We had a brief mention of that, and that's an interesting, good game that we have not yet played. We actually haven't done either one of them yet, and I think that's a little bit of a travesty that we have not given either of those games their due, even though they are hard, which I think has probably been the primary detractor from doing so to date. I also thought I'd throw in Double Dragon 2. I was waiting to see whether I would get just 1 or 2 eyebrows there. I got 2. I got 2, listener. That's not watching video. They got 2 out of Jay. Double Dragon 2, Maniac Mansion, even though the complicated, complex nature that we've talked about its applicability, if that's a word, to what we're trying to do with game episode stuff. And then lastly, Little Nemo. I think it'd be very unjust to not put that in my pool. So yeah, there's no I don't think there's any I don't think any of those require lobbying for their validity. You know what I mean? So I think maybe the most constructive thing is to skip all that, let you present yours, and then we'll talk about them in a relative arena.
Fair enough. So my first one is roller games, surprisingly. Like I said, I think there's a little bit more there to play with, but my second one, Snake Rattle and Roll. Yes. Crazy, but like I said, I think I got the hang of it, had fun playing it. And then, of course, Little Nemo.
Okay. Well, there's the obvious overlap there, and I have no problem giving you your nostalgia shine with with something that you have a deep emotional root to. I've never even played it, so I'd be experiencing it for the first time, and that's an interesting counter dynamic, I think, for the both of our playthroughs. So
that's
I mean, I am inclined to just go with that. Really, I mean, if you want to get down with that,
Nemo, let's go.
Okay, that allowed me to do probably some fun deep dive history stuff with the
where it came from.
Animation shit too. Yeah, that's kind of fun. So okay, yeah, that's way simpler. I fucking don't need to spend more time at this Hyatt hotel with my remote podcasting than is necessary. No problem with that at all. Okay, word. So fucking we'll play Little Nemo next, and that was easy. And then the next issue after that will be Game Pro issue number 14. You can subscribe to the pod on the platform provided by whatever dumbass company that serves up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on that podcast platform of choice, or any other for that matter. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOHpod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the pod on Facebook and or Instagram at isohpod. The link to the YouTube gameplay videos playlist is in the show notes. You can get down with us on Reddit if you want to hunt down our subreddit on there. And we don't have a Patreon, but if you like giving money to the things podcasters tell you to, and would like to do so at our direction, the Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities, and that's cool as fuck. AbleGamers.org is where you can find them. Jay, what are your socials?
Gentleman JB, that's my gamer tag, and where you can find me if you see me on social media.
But what about that second E?
Without the second E, of course.
And you can find me on Twitter at Josh Folan, on Instagram at MyShiftKeyIsBroke, and that's also where you can find me on Oculus, Meta, Oculus, Quest, whatever the fuck they're calling it right now. That's where you can find me if you want to stress me the fuck out in Among Us or whatever. Okay, bye.
Bye.